Hello, YouTube. Hello. Hello out there. Are we live? I'm testing.
Yes,
YouTube.
You can hear us?
we are live. I can hear us.
How's the volume relative to the music?
Hooray.
We are quiet.
Yeah, I'm not hearing any music.
On the stream?
Oh, no, you're not going to hear it through Discord.
Yeah.
But
Oh,
on the stream, you can hear it.
I'll listen to it myself if my app ever goes live. There we go. Okay, I
You
just
should
heard
be
myself.
making noises.
Yeah, we're doing pretty good above the music, I think. When it's super loud, it's going to be a little
Yeah.
weird, but again, the music swells sometimes. Hello, welcome out there to everybody on the YouTube who is watching and joining in, and we'll expect to pick up a few people along the way as well, but we are doing something because it's time. We're about to embark on a new region this week, so it just seemed like the perfect opportunity to do the same thing we did 2 years ago. There's been 2 whole regions that have played out in that span. So we're going to do 2 things today. We're going to update the old tier list just to see if any impressions of characters have changed since 2 years ago, which I think there's going to be a few things that move around. And then we're going to rank all the characters from Sumeru and Fontaine. And joining me is a whole panel of people who I want to talk over themselves as they introduce themselves. I don't care what the order is. Go.
This is Jason. I'm here.
This is Doug. I'm here.
Michaela, also here.
And Kate, here.
There we go. We did it.
That's
Nobody talked
that's
over
the
each
roll
other.
call.
That was great.
We were very patient, very considerate.
All right.
All very polite.
What we're going to do is basically tackle this starting with the old characters and looking to see if they're updated, and then adding in all the new ones. So, what I want to do is basically, we're not going to go character by character. That would take too long, but I am going to go tier by tier. I'm just going to be like, hey, S tier, is there anybody you think should move down? And then an A could be down or up, D only up, etc. But let's start at the top and just see. We only had 5 characters make S tier. There were a couple that were close on the top end of A tier there. Is there anybody the group thinks at least should be nominated to talk about to move out of S tier?
Okay, I'll do it first. I think Raiden and Yaimiko, they were great in Inazuma. They have since fallen off. They're not as relevant. At the very least, Raiden at this point. And
I would
compared to
say,
the
yeah,
kind of stuff that
Raiden
we
is
get, the
less.
kind of stuff we get nowadays with characters, I think the 2 of them should probably get moved down. Kazuha is maybe not as relevant anymore. He hasn't done a whole lot, but like everything that was great about him having like protagonist syndrome, still solid. Yoimiya has had a whole extra quest that was amazing. In fact, she should probably be moving up. And Ito is still, if not more entertaining every single time he shows up in a music event or whatever, or a beetle battle, or literally anything that's some of the most fun thing to do in this game. So at the very least, I don't see Miko or Raiden belonging in the tier with the other 2, or at least 3.
Mhm.
I think Yoimiya and Ito are still probably S tier, easy.
I
but-
think Raiden between the 2 is the one that goes down because Yai has shown up on in a lot of events, whereas Raiden has not.
I suppose the problem with Raiden
So-
is, like, since she is who she is, it's kind of hard to put her in events. And you can argue that, yeah, she's got her own personality going. You know, they've had some time and some separation from the events of Liyue, but I don't know that I'm necessarily opposed to the idea. I was never a fan of Ito and S in the first place, and I don't think my impressions of that have changed because, I don't know, I don't feel like we need a himbo in every other event, but he is certainly more relevant than the 2 of them. The problem with the relevancy path is it would mean that half this cast would move down in relation to what we're about to do, so I think it's a road we need to be careful going down.
That's fair. I will say,
Yeah.
as far as like himbo energy, Ito being a himbo doesn't matter, in my opinion. What matter, like, it doesn't matter as far as like I don't have to see him. Ito doesn't have to even show up on screen. But if I show up at an event and they're like, yeah, Ito's putting this event together, I'm like, okay, awesome. There's about to be some stupid shit happening, and it makes sense because Ito exists in this game and he's doing this event right now. So like, he just needs to exist as like the pretext for why I'm having like a rhythm game or an arcade beetle battle or whatever's happening. Like anytime the game wants to get a little silly, they're like, oh yeah, Ito's doing this. And I'm like, okay, everything about this makes sense. I can suspend my disbelief because Ito's putting on this event, which means adults are not really involved except for, you know, helping make it happen, which is why we'll get to Shinobu later. But, you know, that's my opinion. That's why I think he belongs on S still. But yeah, I don't know. What is Raiden done? And more importantly, is her Archon quest anything? Is it S tier compared to what we're going to be getting? Where we stand now in this game, post Sumeru and Fontaine, her Archon quest, as good as it was back then, and I'd still argue it's better than some other stuff, I just don't think it's S tier anymore. So I don't think a lot of the reasons we probably put her on this still hold. So that's my take.
I feel like I'm gonna fight back a little bit.
Okay.
At least for Raiden, because and I don't remember exactly when this quest came out later, but the quest dealing with her grief a bit more and her sister just like processing all of that was really well done. And yes, you can argue that none of the Inazuma characters have been on screen since then, but that's the case with Liyue, with Mondstadt, with a lot of these characters. So I don't know if that's necessarily fair either, because the game is growing. We're adding new characters. You can't bring back everybody. There's some characters that have been in like one event and then we've never seen them again. So I think it's better to judge them like for what their story was in the moment, and I thought her Archon quest was great. I mean, keep in mind that I'm also I only had Kazuha as my S when we first did this. So a lot of these characters like creeping up to the top I think is fine, because I think we made a strong case for it at the time. I mean, the only ones who I might consider the only ones I might consider putting down would be Yai or Ito, just because like Kazuha, Yoimiya and Raiden are like really all well written, they're involved, they're active, they're interesting, and I think they make sense at the top. But I feel like pretty good about this first level.
Well, how do we want to handle disputes, arbitrator?
Exactly.
I'm interested to seeing where they go with all, like, because there's got to be some huge event where all the gods get back together. We've already seen Venti and God, his name is leaving me. The Geo Arca. Yeah. Yes, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
We've already seen them kind of like play off like, oh yeah, we don't know each other, and yeah, I'm just I'm interested to see the crew get back together, and it seems to happen every Lantern, right? So
I think given that there's some dispute, we're going to leave all 5 of them there right now. I think the character most likely to move down is Yaimiko, but for the time being, I think we leave them. I've noted that those couple were mentioned, and we'll see at the end. So I think the question is going to be how many new characters make it up into S. I think there's 1 for sure, and 2 or 3 that have a good shot. So we may just want to look at the list at the end, because if we have, if we move 2 people out and add 2 people in, and we have a list of 5, and every other tier has like 25 in them, we might be making a mistake.
True. I guess I'm not sure what our spread's going to look like. There's a lot of characters to go through. So.
There are, which is why we also want to spend too long on the old ones. So I think we'll just leave them for now. But again, I've noted that those 2 may be nominated to be moved down. Let's go to A tier, starting with A for Albedo, and look at this whole list. Now, again, this could be moving up or down, but if you want to talk about a particular character's case, now is the chance to do it.
Ayaka has been in events. Oh, go ahead, Kate.
I'm sorry, my lag. But I think Keqing is probably too high.
I agree.
For what she is.
Mm-hmm.
I agree.
I'm going to have one for the first time as we start this next patch.
Hey, finally.
I mean, I love her playstyle, and I think her design is great. Her as the character is boring.
Yeah. I mean, I could say similar things about Ganyu and Jean. Like they are pretty flat. They kind of have their single trope, and there's really nothing else going on.
I might agree with that as well. In that, like, maybe Jean and Ganyu step down a little bit. Jean is more prevalent, like she's around, but they haven't done anything really interesting with her yet. Like, she literally just showed up in this recent event, like for a tiny part, and I was like, "Oh, Jean's here. Okay, I'm still going to that event today. I know I have like, a day, but the point is that like she exists, she's around, but they're not doing anything new or interesting with her that I've seen. It's the same with Ganyu, it's the same with Kashing. And you might be able to make that same argument. Like, I still think, like, honestly, and you can hate me for it, Kokomi might even need to like come down, but I feel like if she doesn't come down before like what's his face, the boy, our boy, housekeeper guy, Toma. Yeah, she doesn't come down before Toma. And Kokomi has shown up in events. Unfortunately, she showed up just to say she's not a dragon. She's just a regular human girl, which is like that. I don't know if that's a negative or a positive because it ruins some of the mystery behind her. So like, give or take, but at least she's like been relevant and she's been around. And so I don't know. That's there. Kashing, I have a C5. I haven't touched her. I think she's level 1 at this point. I mean, she's the reason I forked out some money to get C6 Farina, because I didn't want to end up with a C5 or C6 Kashing before C6 Farina. But, that's I was like, nope, we're not waiting for another banner. This could happen again. But yeah, I agree. I think Kashing's got at least Kashing. I'd probably argue Ganyu as well. And as much as I'd hate to see Jean drop down, I kind of agree. Nothing's happened. In fact, they're almost stagnant, like I would say. And you might be able to make that argument for a couple others. I don't know if Beto's doing anything super interesting, but I feel like...
but Beto herself is in, which the other...
Correct. Albedo, Albedo literally just showed up in the most recent event. There was the whole Fontaine bit where you get they did the movie thing with Ayaka. That was super fun. Like, so there's been a lot of little interesting bits here and there. Whereas Jean and Ganyu especially, they're kind of just boring, and they've remained boring. And even Kashing to some degree. So
doesn't seem like anybody has a case to move anybody up, and as I'm looking at this list, I don't feel particularly strongly that any of these characters should be an S.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, I think I agree.
So that makes it relatively simple.
I feel like could be higher in A.
Who? I'm sorry, what?
Sorry, I think Xiao could be higher within A, but I don't know if they're ranked like throughout the tiers.
They are. At least relatively. We can quibble over left and right in a certain spot, but like there was some degree of like, Mona's a high B and Ayaka is not because he barely escaped C. Or Noelle, who was voted a D by 4 of the 5 of us, got put in C as a pity out of respect for Doug.
She needs to go up higher.
I would even agree. I think Zhao is at least more interesting. He remains more interesting. He probably should be up there with Ayaka and Albedo, I would say. That would be my take.
I can do that.
That's probably,
and for the time being, what we'll do is we'll move these folks down to the bottom, and we'll see if they hang on. I actually think Yelan can make a case to move up slightly, and we'll see if anybody else wants to join them in A, where they might end up. But yeah, that's where I'm at the moment.
Yeah, Yelan over Toma, probably, and even Kokomi.
I think that's probably fine.
I don't know, maybe... I love Kokomi dearly, but she hasn't done a whole lot other than be a real girl, so...
Because one thing that happened since we did this tier list was people discovered that Yelan was really good. And we're not really... This is not a tier list based on battle utility and what skills and what ultimates, but that's part of the equation, just like design and voice acting. And like there's, certain aesthetics to all of it that matters. But, I think that's essentially what we're looking at here. We do have chat chiming in, by the way. Got to get people on the screen here as well. We'll get to official here in a moment because we're just going tier by tier. So we'll talk about official because I have some feelings. And then Yominas tier all based. Well, me and Kate in particular have good taste. So, all right. So again, we'll leave the 3 that we talked about maybe going down for now in A. Let's move to B. Does anything in B need to be adjusted? I have a couple, but I want to let you guys chime in first.
As much as I really like Kuki, I like that she keeps showing up and being reasonable. I don't know that that's the most, like, we haven't really seen her learn a ton of skills. I mean, she keeps acquiring them, but I don't know if she's doing a lot with them other than continuing to babysit. What's his face? I will say, I think Mona has to go up.
I agree.
I think she shows up in Fontaine in some really interesting things. She showed up in this recent event. The more this game is dealing with like prophecy and predetermined fate and the Hexen Circle and all of these things, she becomes more and more relevant. And her voice actress, I think, knocks out of the park every time. And I'm sad I don't have a Mona. I'll probably grab one with this recent thing finally coming around, just so I have her, even though I probably won't do anything with her. But she's cool, and I think she goes up if anything. So.
Yeah,
I agree.
think I agree with that. I can't remember when we did our tier list before, if that was before or after the summer event with her and some of those other characters that one year, but
I think it was after.
Just after,
but
I
just
think.
barely. Yeah.
okay. Because I just want to call out that all of those except for Xinyan. The rest of those were great. Those were really great character and kind of story beats.
Yeah, I think I've already moved Mona up to A because I was going to be advocating for it strongly. I think I was already pushing for that last time, and now it's done nothing but further increase her stock since then. We can quibble over where. We're not going to worry about the list right now because we're going to be adding a bunch of new characters in the mix here, but I'm moving her past the ones that were questionable because I think she's a surefire A.
I agree. I think she's even probably closer to Ayaka, Zhao, Beto, and all of them at the top.
I'm fine with that. Let's do it. She's become like one of the most vital characters in the game. Well, vital's maybe overstating it, but you know what I mean. Like, she's omnipresent, and I'm always happy to see her.
Yeah, the only downside is that, even yet again, a lot of her little things end up showing up in events. So when she shows up and starts talking about really cool stuff, if you didn't do a summer event, or if you're like me and didn't play when that first event was, and we talked about this, like the sky being fake, that doesn't exist in this game. So some of her coolest moments still remain a little locked behind timed content. But that is, I'd still argue, a problem with Genshin, not Mona herself. So
Yeah, I agree.
Now, as I'm looking at B, I think the question we need to ask is, does the Traveler move up? It's a tricky spot because these are still, two different characters that are obviously meant to be very similar, but we had one ranked above the other, and I think had them in the correct order. We did just have a recent event not too long ago, I think the last patch or 3 months or so, where the two of them finally had a chance to interact, and granted, they don't remember that canonically, but we do. So did anybody's estimation of them change? Do they sneak into low A, or are they fine on top of B where they are?
I think they're fine where they are, if only because for me, it's still the same problem of Paimon talking for them almost constantly. That has not really changed or improved. So for me, it's still the same problem of like, these characters are not really speaking for themselves when they should be and could be. And until that maybe completely changes some days, I think they're fine where they are.
I mean, along that logic, I would have said that, to your point earlier, they don't even really remember that the event happened. I think that event is sort of interesting as it was, or I think it was not even, was it an Archon, one of the like prelude or in between Archon quests, whatever it was,
I think so.
Interludes or whatever they're called. Nothing happens in those. Like they keep slow dripping mystery, but like realistically nothing happened. And in this point, what did happen was then erased from the character's memory. So effectively nothing happened. But I would counter Michaela's point by saying that I think if anybody moved up, and I don't remember how we were judging them, the player character, not the other one, I think them talking and doing what they could in all the cool court cases and stuff in Fontaine, I think would move their stock up, whereas the other one still sort of remains just a mystery off screen that we're never allowed to remember. If I would make an argument for any of them, it would only be MC and not other sibling.
Not a great choice by Hoyo, by the way, to have whichever sibling is not yourself fight Dainsleif off screen. Like, to tease that moment and then show nothing of it, I think was a little bit too cruel. But to your point, the main character, whichever of the two you have, let's say it's Lumine for me, was pretty good in Fontaine. Maybe the best they've been this whole time. I think I still have him in B but I am open to the idea of moving him up to the bottom of A. It seems like they might stay put.
I think high B is fine.
Yeah,
Because
I think I'm good with that.
yeah, I mean, I still think them capping out B, as much as they get their cool moments in Fontaine, Paimon is still talking a lot. Although I
Right.
did still caught Paimon in the event here, catching herself where she went to repeat somebody. And she goes, "No, I'm sorry. I don't know why I keep repeating things." And I'm like, oh,
Thank
you're learning.
God, are they finally gonna fix it?
Kind of, and it is self-aware, so it is kind of funny, but it's like when it's been annoying for 3 years, it's like I don't know if you
Yeah.
get to be self-aware and have me be like, oh yeah, that's great, because I'm like, okay, it's a step, but I'm not going to be like, oh, raucous applause, let's go.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at too.
The other two characters that I would
Maybe
make the case for potentially moving into A are Zhongli and Eula. Zhongli, I think, I don't know that anybody in this group of the 5 of us loves him. Some people obviously absolutely do. He shows up pretty much every time there's an event anywhere in the area. His voice acting's really good. His character's interesting. So, like, is he moving up? And then in the case of Eula, we've had some more chance to see her with her guard down. We had just gotten the one event where she was drunk, and everybody was like, oh my gosh, she's so much more fun when she's not just being, vengeance all the time. So I think you can make the case for her. I'm a big fan, but I also recognize that A might be too high for her. Those are the only two I think might escape from B.
I feel like if Eula moves up, Amber moves up, because the two of them are kind of always
Ugh.
paired. So I
No.
think we have to be willing to
I think they're
sort
good
of.
where they are.
Okay, I think
I
that would
think
be my
so.
argument, is for Eula, and I like Eula, but yeah.
I think you can make a case for Zhongli though. I think he is one of the more interesting Archons, and he was probably one of the better parts of that Liyue arc that was meh for the most part. But he was interesting, so I could see that case being made for him. But yeah, I think Eula probably can stay, I think, in B.
I'm gonna say, yeah, we can move him up.
Yep, he's going to bottom of A then. We'll put him, well, not very bottom because those may not stick around, but we'll put him in like the mid-bottom of A for the time being. I think it's the right spot for him. And I moved Eula and Amber over a little bit, just to at least move them up in B, but I'm not going to fight that strongly for them. I'm going to fight much more strongly for something in C, so I'm willing to let that one stay. Anything else in B before we move on? I'm not really moving anybody down for what it's worth. I moved Cookie Shinobi down within B a bit, but I don't think she needs to go to C. And I'm fine with Hayato and anybody else who's on the cusp here. You can argue that Shenhe has been done no favors by getting the Eula treatment and not having a banner for about 4.5 fucking years. But I don't really think she needs to drop down to C for it. That's not her fault.
It's not. And she has a cool new dress.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool. I wanted to get it, but I didn't. So maybe one day.
Then let's move to C tier. And we'll start with the elephant in the room. Fischl should never have been here and needs to be at least B, if not A. So if you're going to stop me on this, you're going to have to fight me now, because her being in the middle of C was a mistake then, and especially after her having her entire own event where we got to sort of see why she's the way she is, and there was some really good music in that event, and we got to spend some time with her finally. This is the biggest atrocity on this list, in my opinion.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's the summer one, right? Where there was the castle and it was there were like two sides.
Yes.
I think I agree that she should probably move up to B. That I mean, all of those summer quests, except for Xinyan, were really good and really revealed so much about the characters and how they are the way they are, and they were really well written and interesting. So like, I think that's totally fair.
We did it for you, Jordan.
I might even argue at least bottom of A. I think Fischl does, like, I caught it again today when I was doing the summer quest. She also shows up for a brief appearance in that. She is this wonderful excuse for the writers to have fun sometimes, which I don't know why they're afraid to do it. They put so much damn dialogue in this game, yet for some reason they don't let you have fun. But Fischl shows up and starts talking archaic, And then, like, even in the recent one, you're allowed to respond to her in the same way. You'd be like, "Your Majesty, I appreciate, you coming here to see me." And she'd be like, "Yes, yes, of course." Like, the fact that you get to do that, I think that's a little icing on the cake for if her character shows up. It also allows the writers to do something fun, which, much like why I think Ito's great for the game, I think Fischl deserves to move up. If anything, just because what she allows the story to do, that other characters don't. Or
I'm saying she moves up 2 spaces to A.
Yeah, I would say she should probably belong in A. At the bottom of A, if not a little higher. But
That works.
I'm going to put her at what is currently the bottom of A if those 3 move down. Again, we'll adjust this at the end once we see if everything settles. But I have her in A as well, so that's where we're going to end up. The other person in C that I think needs to move up is Hu Tao. I don't have her all the way up in A, but I think Hu Tao should be a mid to upper B type of candidate. I don't know about like higher than... the highest I would go is between Amber and Eula, but it seems a shame to separate those two. But the point is, I think she needs to go up 1 tier. I don't know that I have anybody else in this tier moving up except for her.
I think she could go behind Amber. And I think Venti should be a little higher than he is.
I agree. I agree with Venti too. That's what I was going to say. I actually think Venti, I know he's like insufferable, I'll be honest. I have that problem more so with Hu Tao. Every time she talks and tries to do a rap or something, my brain turns off. But if Venti's just sort of a fucking hedonistic drunk, dumb shit all the time, but he always sort of like sneaks in little bits to like put you in the right direction. I kind of like that about him. I think that the two of them should probably at least move up to B. I think Venti's too low. Why is he?
I'm a bigger Venti hater than most. My influence is part of why he's that low. He doesn't go any higher than B because I have the control, so you guys are in real trouble. But I will admit he was probably too low the first time. So like my temptation is to put Hu Tao at the very bottom of B. I don't know if she needs to be any higher than that. And I could see Venti moving somewhere mid-B at highest. I think, even though I'm annoyed by him, and it's a tough call when even Jason's advocating for him and says he's incredibly annoying sometimes, but I think there is a point to it. You guys like him, so I would probably put him, like, there.
His annoyance is charming to me in the same way that reading all Fischl's dialogue is annoying, but I like that they take the time to do it. Every time he starts doing dumb shit, I'm like, what is he doing right now?
Honestly, I'm not going to... I've already moved him up, so I'm obviously not going to fight you guys too much on this, but I think the problem I have with him is he brings out the worst in Paimon.
Okay, that might be true. That's fair.
But I can't hold that against him specifically, especially when that's just the writing and not his character flaws being exploited in that way. I can't hold that strongly against him. So mid-B, I will acquiesce. I'm good with it, especially since Fischl went to A. I'm like, okay, I'm fine. Well, I'll play game.
And you know what? That would be the only argument I would say is the downside of Ito is flying lavender melon is like Paimon gets a lot to do anytime Ito's around because they talk to each other a lot directly. They don't even address the traveler. Paimon's not inserting themselves. Ito and Paimon have a rapport. So if there was ever an argument to move Ito down out of S, that would be the one I would say. But
I'm going to do Doug a solid. I'm going to move Noelle to the top of C tier, but not into B unless somebody else really wants to push her up there.
She's been in events. No. Come on, guys.
This is when I say, has she been in an event? That's how
she was in the poetry event.
Yeah,
with Hu Tao and
I didn't do that. Okay, I didn't do that event. I don't know, and you know why? Because it was Hu Tao doing poetry.
We talked about the fact that
she
needed to be in an event to get a chance to shine more, and she finally did, and she was good in it. So I'm willing to put her up at the top of C, but I won't put her higher than that. So maybe in 2 years, Doug, maybe we can get her into B.
Maybe 2 years.
When she finally becomes a knight and is a 5-star. Okay.
And the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move Aloy to the very bottom. Yeah, last time 2 years ago we put her there. It was the idea was essentially like she's here because she doesn't matter, and anybody below her we actually like dislike because we don't dislike Aloy. She's not in the game. Now she just needs to be dead last because she shouldn't be in the game, and if you're going to waste a collab like that, don't.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, real quick on D tier, does anybody escape the dungeon? The D for dungeon. Kaya's been in a couple of events. Lisa's never getting out of D as far as I'm concerned unless you all overrule me, so...
Man, okay, I would have argued for Lisa coming out of D. I liked the little event where she was in Sumeru and we got to learn about her in Sino and the academia and all that stuff. I liked that. I think it gave a little bit of history to her and all that nonsense. I would have argued for Lisa to move out, but admittedly, it's just more backstory about her. And if you don't give a shit about her, I don't know that it did anything. So, that's fair.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at.
I
too.
do hate Lisa, but I find her less annoying now.
I still am repulsed every time the word
I don't know.
cutie
I
comes
think
out of her
she's had
mouth.
some good development.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there is no fixing that.
And that's just a character archetype. We've seen that in plenty of other Japanese media. It's not like it's unique to her. Officials a tsundere, essentially. Like, we've seen this before. But in her particular case, I'm just not interested. I think Kai has done a little bit dirty by being in D, but I just don't feel strong enough about him to move him up, so I kind of just want to leave him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. Him and Lisa are both like, nothing's happened with him yet. There's a lot of this, like, he's got the secret bloodline and all these other things. That's cool. I don't know when it's going to be relevant. Lisa maybe having a connection to Hexenzirkel and all these other things. Okay, cool. I don't know when that's going to be relevant. Like, there's a lot of holding our breath to see what happens, but we've been holding our breath for a while and we're going to probably continue to. So until then, they're effectively not relevant and are stagnant until that happens. So, yeah.
All right, before we move...
Kaya being in
Go ahead.
well, because in C is crazy. I think he's way more dynamic of a character. I don't know. I disagree with him being...
It's a committee thing.
I wouldn't be against...
There you go.
I wouldn't be against moving him up to C. Here's the thing.
Thank you.
He's got enough screen time. He even showed up in the newest event. So I'm not against it. Honestly, I can't even remember the dog boy's name. And that's probably why I don't even think he should be where he is. But that's not it. Goro.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
That's the word. Proficial. That's the one. I can't remember that name, but that's the one. Kaya's fine. So it does feel like D is kind of the wrong place for him. If we had an F tier, him and Lisa would not be in it in the same way that, I don't know, some other people might be. So I get it. So before we move to the new characters, is there anybody else that needs to change? This is the last chance. I mean, we can look at this at the end and maybe tweak a couple of things, but as we're going over the old characters, last chance. Anybody moving?
Xinyan moves just to a higher spot in D. Because she was in that summer event.
No.
Higher than Barbara. Come on.
But Barbara was also in a summer event. I will remind
Barbara,
you. So
yeah, Barbara can stay where she is.
I'll tell you what. I'll move her up one spot and one spot only.
moves down.
Yep, there you go.
Because she wasn't bad in the summer event. I just can't stand her voice no matter when she talks. So that's tough, even if she has good material.
Well, in 30 years, she'll be S. Okay, that's some good.
Perfect. Okay, so down below, what's funny is at the end of the last time we did a tier list, we had like 3 characters that were coming up, these 3 in particular, that we had gotten the drip marketing for as we were approaching Sumeru. And now, of course, down here we have 3 characters for the launch of Natlan. We're not going to talk about them today because, yes, we've seen them, but we don't know much about them, so they'll be for the future. But these are all listed in order of release, with 4 stars being before 5 stars in the same drop. And we're just going to go through them one by one. Like, sometimes we would look at a tier list and we would just nominate people to talk about as we felt like it, but I think it's easier if we just go in order, because that way we also weave our way through Sumeru and then into Fontaine.
Okay.
And that means that we start with Calais.
I mean, I'm going to say A. I'm gonna throw her up there. I think she is incredibly relevant.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I think she, throughout the whole Sumeru arc, and even into her recovery, into the events where we get to see her go back as a vessel to bring Sumeru and Mondstadt characters together, so that she feels like she belongs in both worlds. Like when a bunch of Mondstadt characters show up in this recent event, I wasn't surprised that Cole showed up as well, and then she can talk about things happening in Sumeru and yada yada yada. I think Cole is A. I think she's up there. I think she's super important. That's me.
You're swaying me, yes.
I mean, you make some good points. I will say that. Like, she is definitely relevant plot-wise.
Are you
I
not
just
swayed
don't-
by the girl that is she is suffering? She's effectively got a serious illness. There's no hope, but she makes the best
Yeah.
of it that she can. And then we get to change that what would have been a slow, tragic, suffering fate for her. And now she gets a new lease on life and she does her best with it. That doesn't move you?
I mean, it's just because she's in Amber 2.0, and I think her character can be annoying sometimes.
Well, but
Mhm.
I'm okay. I will counter that by saying that's the charm of her is that she's younger than Amber and clearly looks up to her, and that's why she names her little thing Call and Amber. It's Call and Amber. Like she looks up to Amber, and I think that's cool that you can see elements of Amber and her kit in Call and her kit because she looks up to her and everything that she did for her. I think that's cool, and I actually think that's a point in her favor.
And Dendro is a lot more capable than her Pyro. So
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Well, Amber's
Yeah,
kid
kid
is still
aside.
one of the worst in the game, so there's no getting around
Absolutely.
that
If this
fact.
was a kit tier list, I think Amber would be below Aloy. So we're not
Yes.
talking about that. Yeah.
Mm.
So like I get that the Amber 2.0 thing. I actually think that is like evident of her character. Her backstory reflects her personality and even goes into her kit, which we're not judging, but the fact that it's intertwined, I think is super cool. So
I don't mind her in the
that's my
bottom of A.
argument.
Yeah, I think I
Yeah,
was gonna
A
say
sounds
probably B, but yeah, if she ends up at bottom of A, I can live with that.
And we can always tweak it later. You know, these new ones, as we look at the list, we might be like, oh, well, we put her in there first, and now 20 new characters later, it doesn't seem like a fit, but I think I'm okay with it for the time being. Tainari, who has some fun moments in the story, and is one of the standard banner characters that's actually good, and some people are going to get to experience him for the first time. Now you're going to have the choice of a 5-star character coming up in the first patch of Natlan. Also had a very unfortunate voice actor situation. Can't really hold that against him. It's
that's
not
right.
his or Genshin's
I
fault.
forgot about that.
But it did happen, so
that's
some
right.
people's esteem of him did drop, and that's fair too. But let's see where Tainari falls.
I mean, for me, I think it's probably B or C. I haven't done his personal quests. I can't say. I think he's a perfectly fine character. I like him as like Kale's dad more than anything else. So I think he's going to be below her. And personal investment in him. If I had one of him and like I used him, I might care a bit more. So I'm willing to concede it's higher than I would place him. But I'd say B or C. That's me.
Yeah,
think-
solidly
yeah.
B.
I think B is where I'm at too.
I think
like his
sounds right. Yeah.
his inclusion in the story was fine. I kind of liked that he was sort of sassy with people, fucking around in the forest. And he'd be like, "Can you not, please?" So I like enjoyed that. But yeah, I mean, I think B is probably a good spot.
I think we're pretty much in consensus. I'm going to put him like right in the middle of B, and we can always move him around a little bit later. But it was like it's very rare we all have the 5 of us with the same letter. So if we all say B, then I think he just goes
Yeah.
right in the middle of B. Dory.
D for Dory.
D for Dory. I freaking hate this character so much.
I do like that she's a little shit, but
She almost has
yeah.
no redeeming characteristics to the point where every time she shows up, you're like, I have to deal with Dory now.
Yeah, no, I dreaded whenever she showed up. I'm sure she was helpful at some point, but I couldn't tell you how. I don't freaking remember. I blocked out every instance where she showed up because she was just incredibly annoying, and she's also a baby character, and we all know how I feel about baby characters. So,
I think she's the most enjoyable when she's with Eula and Amber, and they are effectively screwing. You get to screw her over with her money based on the like deal she made with them. So, if the most fun that we can have with Dory in the story is to fuck her over because she's a shit, I don't think she's placing too high. So, yeah.
Put her next to Aloy.
All right.
yeah, right down
I
at the
would-
bottom with Aloy.
I mean, I'm not going to put her below Aloy, but right next to her seems to make sense.
Yeah.
Candace.
I don't know,
It
it's
kind of
tough.
sounds like C for Candace because she had stuff for the relevancy. She was in the story. She was, but not a lot.
I think problem is that she's sort of
Yeah.
location locked in that, like, if it's not relevant to what are the villages called? I can't even remember now. And like she gets good interactions. She's great, but she almost just feels like an NPC that had a glow up for the town, like the town chief that got a bit of a glow up, and you can play as her. And other than that, yeah, she feels kind of trapped out there. Like she's just out in the desert, not doing a whole lot. So I'd like to see more of her and her doing other things and hanging out with Dea, which I think keeps her out of D for sure. But yeah, it's hard to argue with her being, I don't know, higher than C.
I have her high in C. So if that seems to be the consensus, we love having the initial workout. That's great. But it's not going to be the main reason we put someone
Yeah.
somewhere. And I don't think Sino is going to end up there. But I think I would have her like just below Noelle. And that's only out of respect for Doug.
Noelle needs to go higher.
Because I'm sorry, I'm not a big Bennett
Nah,
fan.
man, nah. I'm gonna block that immediately.
And again, for people who didn't watch the first time we
She's
did
been-
this,
she's-
it was 4 Ds for Noelle and then an S from Doug. So that's why she was the top of D and now, or the bottom of C, and now we've moved her up a little bit. But none of us are really big Noelle fans, except for Doug, who mains her.
Yeah.
Sino.
So
Sino needs to go higher than Tignari for one.
I would agree.
I'm fine with that.
I like them as a pair, like a couple. Like I like their dynamic together. I don't even like his puns because I'm not a big pun guy. But I like that he's got a shtick. I like that he does it, and sometimes he does it, and he'll get a chuckle out of me because I'm like, God damn it, you really made that one happen.
real one,
Okay, that
Jordan.
one wasn't bad. So, I think Sino's probably an A.
I
would
would put
think.
him there too.
I
Like,
agree.
I like that he's the chief of justice or whatever his title is. But he's like kind of a dork outside of that. I think that's charming. He's a really great voice actor. Really cool design and aesthetic. Yeah, he's
Big
cool. I
Yu-Gi-Oh
think
fan.
Mm-hmm.
Big Yu-Gi-Oh
Yeah.
fan.
Yeah, he loves
Exactly.
Yu-Gi-Oh.
Exactly.
Which Candace was even
Yu-Gi-Oh
more
vibes
into.
over here.
Well, yeah, so he's shown up in a bunch of things just because of that, which I actually think is super interesting. That lets him escape the Sumeru bubble pretty well, plus the
Mhm.
Kole connection. That's good. I haven't done the recent quests with him in it, like his 1 and 2, which I should. I haven't done a lot of character quests. But he also has a fun kit to play, just running around clawing things.
And
So,
you get to like
yeah.
Hulk smash people. That's a
Oh.
pretty good time.
It's so fun. Yeah, it's super fun. I wish there were more characters to let his particular long like field time kit work. Unfortunately, Genshin's a quick swap game, and Sino doesn't want to do that. He wants to be on the field the whole time for like 25 seconds.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Let's look. I have him in like just under mid A. That seems about right. Again, we can tweak it. But I'm like, do I have him above Zhongli? And I'm like, no. So that's where I put him.
But above Kokomi is fine. Yeah.
I think so, because Kokomi was one of those we even mentioned maybe going down. I don't think she's going to, but it just seems appropriate to me. How about Nilu?
Hey, I really like Nilu. I like her design a lot. I like that she's a dancer, and that's kind of something like her artistry kind of puts her at odds with the kind of knowledge focus society of Sumeru, and she's endearing. She's just a sweet character. I love her character design so much. Her kit is weird but interesting. Really good if you have very specific team composition, so it can make her a little niche, but she's fun, and I like her. I've always been endeared to this character a lot, so I would put her in A.
I'm probably putting her in like C, which like I get maybe she's not my thing. I don't know. I feel like there's a bit of a wasted opportunity with her. She just is like, I dance, I do things. That's fine, I guess. Like even in the most recent event that she shows up, most of the cool things she does in that event are things tied to like the role she's given in that world. They have almost nothing to do with her really being a dancer, unless you just sort of abstract it to occupying a role in a play is a thing she's good at. But her being a dancer doesn't really show up or matter a whole lot. I wouldn't say that she's like particularly empathetic in any special kind of way or knowledgeable or skilled in any way that nobody else is. She's just a dancer girl who is nice, and that is her. She exists. She's
She
very
saved
like
the people of Sumeru.
She
saved
did.
them.
She did, and I'm not gonna argue like the relevance in the story. And I think her representing this, like, you know, she cares about Nahida and all that. I think it's good. It prevents her from being like a D. I'm not amazed by her, and like her kit is both amazing and, to Michaela's point, kind of bad if you don't have a team for it. In this new recent event, they like give you a trial team because she's one of the characters in the story, and she's useless in that team because her kit doesn't work with any of what you're doing in that team. You don't have any of the elements. And I'm like, why is she here? Get her out of this team. None of her abilities worked how they're supposed to because you gave us like a Geo and a Wind character and what. Anyway, point is, yeah, I don't know. No, I'm not amazed. I'm probably putting her C, but I'm willing to be, you know, outvoted.
She's got to at least be B, high B, probably.
Yeah, I was gonna say B. I hear both of you.
I think
She's cool, but just a dancer.
I think I have her in like low A, which makes her placement tricky because it feels like she's on the border. I think for the time being, she's gonna go like near the top of B, and we can look to pivot that later if we need to. But
does Jordan sway your decision anymore because he also has her as the profile picture?
It depends because I'm still getting a sense of how many characters Jordan would have in S, because you know our channel in general is pretty tight with giving out the top of the top, which is why I don't mind that we only had 5 S characters last time compared to I think it was 58 total, 58 or 56. So it has to be rarefied air. So I. Not really, but again, there's a chance we still put her in A. We'll see where this all ends up in the end. Here's an interesting one because obviously she's integral to the story, and also as far as like the meta is a very strong character, Nahida.
I think she's A at least. That's me. I say A, if not like top S. A. I might argue S. I think she's super interesting. I think she's just conceptually. The idea that wisdom comes from not just knowledge, but like an understanding of like the full human experience and tying that to dreams. The entire Sumeru arc, kind of bringing that together through her, or maybe like this caged bird, but she was like the heart. She looked after it. The entire Sumeru arc is like Nahida as a character, and I think like her being pitted against the academia, then bringing in all the stuff with what is the nature of memory and the soul, and her very wise navigation of it, and her sort of telling us stories to help us navigate it because she knows things that she can't necessarily tell us. I think they've done a great job with her. I get it translates into her kit, being able to read people's minds and whatnot. Yeah, I think she's great. I'd love to see more of her. I'm sure we will see more of her. And she should probably be like S, if not A. So that's my take.
I mean, she's one of the only baby children character who I would consider putting higher up. So, I mean, she's definitely important to the story, and she has an interesting arc. I really wish her voice acting was stronger, and it's not the voice actress's fault. It's just the direction they were given. I like sound like a fucking baby, and she tries, but it's really grating. I cannot listen to her speak.
Yes.
When she goes on and on and on for her tangents. I'm just like, please stop, or stop trying to make this voice actress sound like a child. It's not working.
Yeah, that's the biggest
fake.
issue I have. Because
yeah.
I think I would put her in S if it wasn't for that. And as Michaela put it, it was correct. It's not the voice actress's fault. The direction makes sense for the type of character that Nahida is, and her look and her aesthetic. It fits. It's grating to me. And maybe that's just a me thing. It's not, clearly, because it's also Michaela. But that's the one thing that's giving me reservations of putting her in S. And I would put her like top of A. I think she's a really cool character. It's just, I think there's this disconnect in my head where it's like she's talking about these really advanced concepts, and like Jason mentioned, all the stuff with dreams and memories, and she's got all this wisdom and knowledge inside of her despite her young-looking form. But then what comes out of her mouth doesn't sound like something that should be understood by someone who sounds like that.
I almost like wish she was her original form in a way. Like I want to be able to combine the two, like combine the arc and the experiences that Nahida had with her previous reincarnation
But
like
that's just it.
adulthood.
She's a new twig. She's a little bud, you know. That's why she looks like a little
And I get
radish.
it. I totally get it. And again, it's not the voice actress's fault. I understand that they were going for a certain vibe. I just don't like the vibe. So that was my challenge going through Sumeru of just like, God, I mean she has so much dialogue because she is so important, and you know, there's nothing wrong with that, but it just meant I had to hear her a lot, and I was like, this is too much for me. In a game that's already very dialogue heavy. If there is a voice that is very grating on top of that, it just makes it a little tough for me.
So I think
But I will also acknowledge it's a me thing.
I think I heard Kate had her in S. Doug, where do you have her?
It would be in A. It would be below Yelan.
Yeah, I actually haven't given her a ranking in all this.
Because I think she's more interesting than Zhongli. So it would just knock him down.
I'm fine with that. I probably would have said B if I was to give a letter, but I'm fine with her moving up because I know the group, the panel likes her and appreciates her contributions to the story, and I think that's totally fair.
There's nothing wrong with being
Our
an
only
A.
baby character.
Yeah, an A for a baby character is like a double S. So keep that in mind when she ends up there. But I think that's all right. Again, it sucks because there's a lot of aspects where I'd have her as S, but there's one thing that holds me back, and it's not a small thing. Okay, Layla.
Like Layla. I love her design so much. I love that she's a student of the I forget what the field is called that Mona's also kind of a part of. And I just like that she's like this very droopy, sleepy character. It fits her aesthetic and her characterization. Maybe it's simplistic, but I just really like her design and vibe. And she's like pretty fun to play as too. She's one of the few 4 stars that I really leveled up quite a bit outside of like Razor and maybe a couple others. Just because I think her kit is also kind of fun and interesting. I like her. She doesn't really have a lot to do in the story, but I'm a fan. I really like her vibe and her character design. So
She is a Pokemon master too.
Yeah, there's this weird bit where like I would say that like she hasn't done anything in the story, and I think that might be true. I think she's only done event stuff, maybe. That I don't even know if that's true, but maybe. And like I don't know that I can name why I like her, but her vibes are good. Every time I remember thinking, I don't know how this character is gonna go. I don't know that I care about the sleepy academic. Oh, I'm so tired all the time. And then like I didn't know how that was gonna work with the Pokemon thing. But I liked her by the end of that event by a lot. And every time she shows up again, I'm like, I like Layla. I like that she's here. I'm glad that she's here. She's insightful and knowledgeable at times, even though then she'll sort of be like a little too tired, but then she'll be surprisingly competent because, you know, she fell asleep or whatever. And it's like, okay, I don't know. I vibe. She has really good vibes that I think propel her above other characters. I don't know what the hell they're going to do with her in the story, though. She like doesn't exist in it. She's an event character.
She does have this Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde thing. Which
Yeah,
her natural form is the Mr. Hyde, and her sleeping form is Dr. Jekyll, which is
yeah,
weird.
and he's got like 3 PhDs. Yeah.
I don't know that I feel especially strong about Layla. I agree with you guys that I think the event was very good for her. She's not really present in the story, so it kind of had to be. I wouldn't be upset if she ended up in A, but I probably have her more in B myself.
I would probably put her in B, and it might even be low B. I don't know that she beats a lot of the other characters that have a lot more personality and like they feel very established. Like they show up in a scene and I know what they're gonna do. Layla shows up. I don't know if I know what's gonna happen or how she's gonna act. I don't know that she's very well defined, but I just know that the vibes have always been really good when she's been there. So yeah, I'd probably say low B myself.
okay with that too. Yeah.
Well, let's put her here. I don't know.
Okay.
That's what I've settled on. We can always move it later. Farazan.
I have no opinion about this character whatsoever. I like forgot she existed until I was looking at this tier list and was like, oh shit, who dis?
I think she's C
Yeah.
or D material.
I agree. She might be C. I remember thinking that there's no way that I find anything interesting about her, and then she talked, and I was like, you know, I don't hate how they used her. I think she's fine. and she didn't bug me. So like I might say C. You know, but yeah, I haven't engaged with her. She hasn't been super interesting. Yeah, low C, probably somewhere around there. I wish I
C
had more
for
to say.
crusty old woman.
Yeah, basically. Yeah.
Cantankerous.
Mm-hmm.
Cheap Hatsune Miku.
Yeah. I almost want to put her at the bottom of C. I'll see if I feel.
I think that's fine.
I think that's.
I don't think
fine,
she belongs
too.
above Kaya, which means she almost has to end up there.
Yeah.
Wanderer, or whatever you
Hat
named
guy?
him.
Your S tier.
You mean
Hat
Hat
Guy.
Guy? I'm gonna have to
Galileo.
rename him too. Everyone calls him Hat Guy in the story, and I think I'm just gonna change his name to Hat Guy because I'm okay with that. They just accepted it, and I'm okay with it. He has to be high A at least, or somewhere around there. He's up there. He's relevant in Sumeru or like post Sumeru. Well, I mean Sumeru and post Sumeru for sure. And like he's almost too cantankerous for me. He's almost like too much of an ass at times, but it's very fitting for who he is. And I actually think if he swapped it around and he was like, you know what, I've changed a new leaf, I don't know that I would believe it. So I sort of like that he's kind of an ass, and like even in the new event he'll say shit and you're like, damn, like what are you doing? And like Traveler will just like glare at him and be like, come on, man. And he'll be like, okay, I guess. And you're like, Jesus. But like
I mean,
those
he
are
tried
fun
turning
moments.
over a new leaf once.
I feel like this character, I'd probably put him like high A. I could definitely see him being in low S, because I also think we should talk about Scaramouche, and I think I'm saying his name right.
Yeah.
Sorry if I'm
Yeah.
not. And his whole arc in the Sumeru story and how he actually becomes Wanderer is deeply interesting and very compelling to me.
And that would be one reason I'd consider to move him up. If you've done the new event, they use the exact like circumstances and his own feelings about like not wanting to exist, and they turn that into an avenue of empathy that he can have for others who are in that same place. And I think it was really good and very well done, very beautiful in the new event, which means the writers not only didn't forget that it was there, but they really wielded it very well. Which I think was super interesting. He showed up and I'm like, I don't know why he's here other than fans like him. And then it became very evident why he was there and why he was so important. And I was like, I like this. This is good. So I wouldn't be against low S as well. But, you know.
I have to kind of rain on everybody's
low S's.
parade. Don't like this character. Don't like this type of character. Can't stand not those little shits like this. Not for me. And I recognize I'm in the minority on that. And that's fine. I'm not going to tell anybody else they're wrong for liking him. Can't stand this fucking kid.
Fair. Like I said, he grates on my nerves too. I at least appreciate that they let me scold him now in the dialogue for being a fucking ass all the time.
And I will admit, Michaela's point about the Scaramouche side of it and his role with the story and that whole part of it was really good. And like I'm not even going to like couch that with a but or a nah, but there's no two ways about it. That part of the story was one of my favorite parts of Sumeru. But as the character himself goes, like I can't put him in S. I'm not gonna sit there and put him in D or something, because even though I don't like him, he doesn't belong in D. But I think he has to go like maybe the highest of A, because I just cannot stand him, and when he shows up on my screen, I want to die a little bit inside.
I think
Where'd you have him,
is
Kate?
fine.
Like, I can put him all the way up
I mean,
here, but
I think he belongs in front of Yai, but whatever.
That's 4 S's.
I mean, I did technically say A, but I could see an argument to be made for S.
Oh,
for
okay.
low
right.
S,
Also,
so-
if you think 4 S's mean that he should be in S, then that means that Noelle should have been in D. So careful on the road we're
Right.
walking on here.
That's true.
It's a slippery slope.
Because I think there's going to be other characters from these two patches that do belong in S, and we're not there yet. Let's talk about Al Haytham.
I like this guy. I love his design. He's really fun to play as. He's also kind of an asshole, but he's really smart, and he definitely what's the phrase? Like, he can back up a lot of what he says. So he's not just an ass all the time. Like, he's actually very smart and can back up what he's saying. And I also love like his little headphones. Like he actually just listens to music and just really wants to be left alone. Like that speaks to me in my soul so much. I relate to him on so many levels. He's cool. I really like his design and I like his character. I like that he is roommates with oh shit.
Kave.
And they were roommates.
Kave. Thank you.
Yeah. Roommate. Yeah.
Or more than that, depending on how you. If you want to ship it, like go for it. I think that's
it's right there.
It's right there. It's a popular ship, and like, why not, right? So, like that's fun. That's a fun dynamic. He's great. I really like him a lot. I would put him in high A. I could also make an argument for him to be low S.
I don't. For some reason,
he had a really cool moment in the story too. He like went crazy for a second.
No, I agree. He is. So here's the thing. He's an incredibly competent character whose sort of aloofness isn't like it is an actual payoff. He is smarter than everybody in the room, and they back that up in the story. Sumeru is one of those times where they succeeded in doing what they wanted to do with Kokomi, of making her like the super smart, brilliant general. Al-Haytham shows up and is like, I'm actually a super smart, competent person, and I will just do the super smart, competent things. And you're like, oh, yeah, actually, no, he's got this handled.
Yeah.
I think that's really good. His design, for some reason, I have no idea why, complete miss with me. I don't see the appeal. It's like way too like weird K-pop pretty boy, but yet super Abby guy. I don't know. It's like too many things that for some reason all of them miss me in like a way. But like. His kid's kind of fun to play. I don't know. I don't think he's S, but he's definitely A, probably on the high A. I think he's part of why the team, this like the Sumeru team, how many there were like 4 of them or 5 of them, the little like that little squad that like helped turn everything around. He's like one of the strongest linchpins in it, and I think were he not there, their plan and everything would have struggled a lot, and he helped make it all feel believable. Because he backed it up. Every time he was aloof or kept something to himself, it was because that was the smart play, and that kind of pragmatic, like intellectual side of him, I think works. I think they delivered. So
this is probably the character I regret not pulling the most.
Mm-hmm.
Now, part of the reason for that was because of another character whose face is rapidly approaching the front of the line, and his timing could not really have been worse for me, so it's not really even because I didn't think at the time I wanted him. I did. I don't know if I have him in S, but I think I have him in very high A.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I think he belongs in A.
I think that's a good spot for him.
For Al-Haytham.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Put him at the top of the line.
I'm going to put him...
I think
he should be second in line.
Second? All right. I'll at least keep Wander at the top out of respect for some of our panelists, even though, his face aggravates me. Does Yaya just go into D? Is anybody going to argue against this?
Who's this? Who?
She does. She does go into D.
D for death.
I don't know. I don't know if I ever really saw the point of even including her. I mean, it's nice to have a Dendro healer kit-wise, but story-wise, she just kind of shows up, and it's like, oh, what do you know? Another new pupil for Cloud Retainer, and like, I guess that's nice, question mark. Is it even Cloud Retainer, or is it Madam Ping?
It's the grandma.
Yeah, Madam Ping. Yeah. I don't know. They haven't done anything interesting with her. I don't know that she is a deep enough character to do anything interesting with. She's a nice little girl that runs around and helps people. Cool. Phenomenal. Welcome to being a hero in this game.
Yeah.
So like,
Jordan seems surprised by this one. For context, almost none of us really like any of the baby child characters. You saw what a struggle it was to get Nahida as high as we did. So just keep that in mind when we're looking at this, is that, we're not really super big fans of the baby child. So yes, it's probably the wrong place if you're a Yao Yao fan. We're not going to spend much time on her. I'm not going to put her in the dregs of it. Like, I'll put her, like, here. But...
yeah.
Sure.
I mean, you did have the one message here that Chi-Chi gets to hang out where Yao Yao is. So maybe move up Chi-Chi to where Yao Yao is.
Chi-Chi doesn't need to go anywhere.
Just for Jordan.
Or move the girl, this new character whose name I don't even remember, down to be with Chi-Chi.
Yeah, there is that too. Okay, so as I introduce our next character, here's what I'm going to say.
Oh no.
Mhm. No, this sounds about right.
Yeah,
This
that's true.
list does not. I'm going to talk about Dia because this is my character, and this list has never
earned
really
her.
been about battle utility. As we mentioned earlier, it's
No.
not a tier list of
Uh-huh.
abilities and skills and ults and what relics fit best and all that jazz. It's not meant to be any of that. It still is a factor occasionally. We've talked about some characters that we like more for their kits and whatever. So that part of it really shouldn't hurt her here. And yet, every time I see her face now, there is still this little piece of me that dies inside because they completely fucked her over and I still don't understand it. And we talked about it in like a 30-minute rant in the poll video about her and one leading up to her. So I'm not going to go down that road again. Character, story-wise, she's a fucking S.
I'm inclined to agree. I will even go so far as to say that the reason people, myself included, are so sad about Dea. I think I have like a C2 Dea at this point. Even though her kit is hot garbage, I have tried to build her, and I know I am not the only one who has gotten a Dea and tried to make her work because all of us look at her and go, "God damn it, can we make this work?" Because she's that cool. She's so cool that you want her to just be in your team and do fucking cool shit and punch people and hit things with sword. That's how cool she is. She's so cool that you could give her Amber's kit and she would still be like, maybe I use her. Maybe there's like you would want to use her. I think that's a strong argument for S. I mean, I don't know. I haven't even done her story mission. I already know that, but I also know it's good. Every time she shows up, every time she sasses Paimon, every time she hangs out with Candace and does her little like gay shopping spree or whatever it is she's doing, she's great. She's great, and like every single time, she's great for running around Sumeru. If you see her outside of Sumeru, there's a believable reason. Just great. She's great. I don't know what more to say other than she's probably one of the like greatest tragedy stories to come out of the Sumeru patch because she is such a strong character with such a bad kit. So.
Yeah.
Well, now I'm about to rain on that parade.
No.
I don't know
He's
if
so
I
cool.
if I miss the appeal or if she's just not my vibe of character. I don't know, but I did not really care about her very much throughout the story. And obviously there's all the discussions about her kit and the tragedy of that as well, which should definitely be addressed, of course. I just don't care. I don't know. She's fine. She is cool, I guess, but this seems like that's all she is. She's just like the cool bodyguard, and I don't know. It didn't really stick with me. It did not land with me. So I would probably put her in like C or C.
I was gonna say, don't
honestly.
you dare say the letter D, or I will remove you from this Discord call. I'm fine with you having her in C. And not everybody cup of tea. I just did it to Wanderer, but don't you dare say the letter D, even though her name starts with it.
No, I know. I wouldn't do that to you.
All right, then we're fine. Everybody's happy. And Jordan mentions like, yeah, they could have done a few different things with her kit, like the ult being like Raiden's, or like not just punching crazily out of nowhere, or like her taking herself out of her ult if she jumped, or like just all the different things that we talked about, like all of those that was just like so confusing because there was a lot of popularity with her that was just not from me. There was some build for her for months, and then to have the kit be a letdown. It's like, this game is all about trying to make as much money as possible, so why did you do this? And we still don't have an answer to that. It's been almost 2 years and we have no idea.
Yeah, no idea. They can't even give her like, she's one of the few off-field pyro applicators, to the point where I was even like, I don't know, maybe I could try to get her to like my Fiorina team so I could like hit things and vape them. She doesn't apply enough pyro for that. She doesn't. There's almost nothing her kit does well enough to build around, and that's like the greatest fucking tragedy. So I don't know. It's tough. It's super tough, but I still think she's great. She's got to be better than Ito. At the very least, like I think she still has to be S, even if it's the bottom of S tier. I don't know.
Yeah, Thunderhead is
we're
correct.
just holding her kit against her. Like, her as a character and her design-wise is incredible. She just sucks so bad.
And
I can see where like maybe she is just like the cool bodyguard, but I would say that like she is like this like moral center of like she holds the mercenaries from becoming just like bloodthirsty cutthroats. Yet she also is sort of like, she doesn't buy into a lot of the Sumeru academia stuff, and she kind of holds them accountable too as kind of an outsider. I would say that her use in the story is kind of cool bodyguard. It's sort of like soldier with the heart of gold, but I think she really delivers that in a way that not everybody does. So,
and her story quest is
yeah,
also very good. Jordan is correct. I mean, look, this is where I'm going to have to try and see if I'm a hypocrite or not, because a C means that maybe she doesn't make it into S, but I don't know. Like, I think the stuff with Dunyazard is Dunyazard.
Yeah, Dunyazard.
You know who I'm
Whatever
talking
her
about.
name
Is some of the best of what was already a very good story arc in Sumeru. I just enjoyed the whole thing with the time loop and the memory stuff, and even Nahida squaring off with the doctor at the end was super compelling. But I think the Dia Dunyazard stuff was the most interesting to me, and I wasn't alone in that because a lot of people really liked her as sort of this tragic character who seemed destined to die.
Yeah, and her. Yeah, she's a central figure. She's like the strong man in our little team together, along with kind of Sino in a way. But yeah, her connection with Dunyazard makes her relevant to like the withering or whatever it's called, what's the sickness that they all have, the thing that gives them like scales or whatever. I don't remember. Whatever that illness is, it connects her to that, which is like similar to Calais and all that. Like all of the interesting bits. Every interesting bit that happens in Sumeru, Dea has a connection to. She's like our Kazuha in Sumeru, and I think that is like a really strong like argument for why. Because Sumeru is, I would say, stronger than Inazuma, and if that's her role in it, I don't know. It's hard to argue against her as a character. You could say maybe she's not super deep, but my understanding is, especially with the story quest I haven't done, is that she is pretty deep. And I think it shines through even if you haven't done it yet. She clearly has a history and a past and a connection to her people, but it hasn't like made her so jaded that she's just one of the thousands of other Eremite mercenaries running around trying to murk people left and right.
I'm going to make myself something of a hypocrite by putting her in S. I don't think the spread of votes on her is that different than Wanderer, if I'm being honest. However, I'm the one with the mouse, and also it's my little way of rebelling, because the reason I don't play this game as much anymore is her face staring out at you right now. Because I really enjoyed the story in Sumeru and Fontaine, and if we're not running super late, we'll even talk about our impressions of that as we wrap up here. I really enjoyed the story for both these regions. I loved exploring them. They were super interesting, lush, fun to like run around in. And yet, I'm not playing this game as much, and a lot of it has to do with that character right there, which is so fucking frustrating.
Yeah, fair.
And of course, we can always move her later. Okay, Mika.
Who?
Yeah.
Yeah, like who is this little dweeb?
I don't think he's D material, but he's definitely. I think he's C. I think he's like a promise to go into the army that left for Shneznaya of Mondstadt. I think he's a connection to that, and like he's like the little Mondstadt drip that we get, and I think he's like as a character, I don't know, he's kind of fun. I liked him when he was running around with Calais, and he's got his little book and he writes things in it, and it's like, okay, he's mapping stuff out. He's a little map boy. Like, I don't know, it's fine. I guess I have a hard time seeing him worse than Farazan. That's my issue. But
well, maybe that just means she's too high.
You can't, you're making a solid argument, okay?
I mean, look, this could be a thing that happens. It could be this.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
All right. I don't even like the 4 stars in this game, with a couple exceptions, sometimes just get lost in the shuffle like this. In part because there's no way to pull them if they're not on a banner, and the new ones. That's a different rant for a different day, but I don't know. All right, I forget how to say his name. Baizu?
Yeah, Baiju.
Yeah.
Baiju. He's okay.
He was teased for so long.
Yeah, they introduced him back in Liyue, I think, right? Like he's been around for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, since patch 1 or whatever.
Yeah. Which is kind of cool that they've had a character kind of around since the beginning, kind of behind the scenes doing things, and then they finally add him as a playable character. That's cool. I just don't really know if they did anything super interesting with him. Like, he really is just the doctor, as I understand it. Like, I don't.
Yeah,
Chronically ill doctor.
Yeah, I would
Yeah.
almost argue he would have been better off as an NPC, and my argument for that would be that his whole bit is that like he's sort of slowly kind of killing himself to like heal other people, and there's like kind of this like give and take. I actually think him like finally pushing it to the point where he gives his life essentially to help save someone important, and then he dies, and then we could like mourn him, would be the most interesting thing for them to do with the character that they're not going to kill off. So I don't know. I'm not super wowed by him or his design, or I mean, the talking snake is cool. I mean, give that to somebody else, I guess. But
His weird, really high belly button for some reason.
yeah,
Just raises an interesting point.
I don't
What we need
know.
is
in that
go
like,
ahead,
if
Chris.
these characters can't really die, like Senora died before she could become playable. If she had become playable, could she have died anymore? What sort of Pandora's box does that open up when it's like, well, now it's a character that you have. It's like a thing the Traveler can summon, but in the world, she's fucking dead. So, like, it's interesting, but it's
Right.
like it can't ever pay off. And maybe it shouldn't. I'm not saying I want him to die, but you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't hold
Yes,
sway
yeah.
because the way the game is structured, he can't really pass away or it doesn't make any sense.
correct. That's
Yeah.
ultimately the crux of his character is this like he's always sick, and it's like okay, he does it to himself, and it's never going to result in his death. So like I don't care. It doesn't feel like there's any real stakes, and the point of his character is the stakes. So I don't buy into it effectively. Which like I almost, if they were like, actually he's cursed with immortality, he can never die, all he can do is suffer, and he used that to like poison himself and develop medicine, I think that would have been a more interesting route to take. And like, yeah, now actually he'll live forever, but he uses that to do good or something. I think I would have been more okay with that and probably would rank him higher. But I don't know that I care, unless I'm just misunderstanding something about his character. But I'm not wowed by him. He's like a C, maybe something. Maybe if you put him in D, I wouldn't cry about it.
For
So,
Doctor?
yeah, for Doctor.
D for doctor.
I'm underwhelmed, and his biggest
don't hate
advocate
it.
is not here and has been banned from the channel, so I don't know if anybody's going to save
Yeah.
him.
Mhm.
That's true.
Yep. Mhm.
So I'm going to put him on top of D unless somebody stops me.
No, I'm actually actively supporting you to do this right now.
Yeah.
All right.
There are
He
multiple
comes
hands
with
on the
his
mouse.
his own personal Paimon speaking for him
Mm.
too.
All right, we need to talk about who potentially the prettiest character on this list is.
Well, put him next to his boyfriend and call it a day.
Here's the thing. You joke, but I almost kind of agree. Kave's great because of his relationship with Alhaitham. He was most interesting because he's always hanging around Alhaitham. Maybe he doesn't belong in A, but like every time he shows up and he kind of like sassily bitches, and they have like the odd couple dynamic between the two of them. I don't know that Kave is interesting in like the story, the plot. He doesn't do anything. He's not relevant. I don't know if he disappeared, if he died, other than like Alhaitham being sad. I don't know that it would affect anything. But like, I don't know. He's kind of fun when he shows up, and he's constantly poor and kind of dumb, and like,
He's got the whole tortured artist thing.
yeah, I don't know. Probably B, I guess. Maybe C. It's gotta be. Yeah, I mean, or A. B is a good middle ground for me. I'm gonna settle on B. Okay.
I think low A, high B.
I think that's fair. Can we put him to where he's in the second slot under Alhaitham, just like 2 rows below?
That's
in B?
absolutely the highest
So
we
they're-
could do. If he's going to end up in A, that's where he's going to go, is underneath Alhaitham, not next to, because that's crazy for like Albedo. Or it could be the 2
yeah.
below in B, depending on what Doug thinks about him.
I played through his storyline, and it was kind of like there was a little bit of like a hide and seek event and whatever, like trying to find something that his mom left him or something along those lines. It was okay. It wasn't very interesting, so it was kind of like he feels like a B character to me.
All right, then we're going to put him... Well, the problem is the Travelers are blocking him from being 2 under Alhaitham, but maybe Alhaitham will move later, so we'll see.
Okay.
They're still in the same, like... They're close, so we'll see what happens.
They're
there.
close.
I don't
They
even
can
know.
see each other.
I don't even know if I'd have him above Nilu, to be honest. So I feel like this is where I would put him at highest, and like this is starting to be a
That's-
concern for me. But then he's drifting away from Al-Hatham, so
Whoa.
we'll put him there for
Can't
now.
split
We'll
up
see what
two
we
on
do at the
Hammer.
very end.
I think that, yeah, I think
Mitchell
that's
is
okay.
just suffering in the middle.
All right, let's wrap up Sumeru with Karara.
Famous Sumeru character.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I don't know. Kirara's in a weird spot in that like she very much, to exactly Kate's point, does not feel particularly attached to any region other than she definitely knows a lot of like she's dressed in Azumin and will like reference the light novels and like yokai and like, oh, she hangs out with Guji and stuff like that. But like she definitely feels like she can go anywhere, show up anywhere. And because of that, she feels maybe a little displaced as a character. I liked her. Like I like her. She's in a new event. She's fun. She's very inquisitive. She is basically just a cat. If you just took a cat, a little inquisitive cat that was running around, wanted to sleep in boxes, liked food, and you just let them talk and run around, that's her in the story. And to be fair, that is exactly what she is. She is an Ekomata. She's supposed to be a cat that was turned into a person. So
She would hate that you called her a cat.
true. She'd be like, I'm an Ekomata, which her having a bit of a prideful thing, that is a very cat trait. Like the reality is that if you were trying to sell a character and it was, they are a cat, she technically is a shining example of how to do that. She's a wonderful, like she's a success. I would say that she is a success at what they wanted to do with her. I don't know that what they wanted to do with her ranks her particularly high over some of the other more interesting characters in this game, but I don't think she's a failure of a character, despite the fact that she kind of doesn't do a whole lot other than turn into a cute box and run up hills really well. So, I don't know. I'm tempted to say like B, low B, probably low B. That's probably where I would put her for box.
I would
B
put
for box.
her. I'd put her in B next to the dog boy.
Next to to Tainari.
Razor, I think.
Yes,
Razor.
Razor. Wolf Boy is where my brain goes. So that was my
Yeah.
bad.
I'm like, Goro's
Yeah, Goro's the dog. I was so confused. Yeah, I think it's hard because when she was announced, it was like right as Sumeru's ending and we're transitioning into Fontaine, so she has no bearing on the plot at all. It almost feels like she just exists to fill space as a character a little bit, which I feel bad saying because she is super cute and like she does fit the cat vibe that they were going for to a T, but she feels very inconsequential in terms of like her place in the story and even the setting. I mean, as you said, she kind of exists in a bunch of different regions potentially, so it's kind of nebulous and kind of random. So I'm thinking I would probably do like C, but I'm also fine with her being like low B.
I think low B is where I have her as well. So it seems like that's where she's going to end up because it's about where all of us have her. She's got a free costume in the new event, and like I think it's what Michaela said. It's the problem for me as well. It's the timing, and someone's going to get stuck in that spot where you're sort of an afterthought as you come at the end of one region, and it's all the hype and all the drip marketing is coming up for the next new region. I'm not going to say she's an afterthought because she's had some fun moments, as Jason mentioned, but I think she's just a victim of timing, and I have her like here. I don't know.
Like, I'm not even a fan of Hu Tao. I would probably put Kiara below Hu Tao. Like, let's put it this way. If you're sitting in a scene, I think of that moment where you see like Mona's hat in Fontaine and you're like, oh shit, it's Mona. And you're going to get some fun little Mona scene. If Kirara showed up in a scene, you'd be like, oh, I guess Kirara's here. And you wouldn't know what they're doing with it. You wouldn't really know what to expect. She doesn't really add anything other than going, oh, yeah, and like, oh, I'm here to deliver a package to blah, blah, blah. Like, she effectively adds nothing, but she can be a good kind of like force multiplier to a scene. Like, I've had a lot of fun running around with her and like solving a little mystery in the event. But like, ultimately, I could be doing this with any character. She's not relevant to us solving this murder mystery or anything. She's just a curious little cat That's all she is. So like she is almost like a Paimon 2.0, where like if Kiara was just following me around and being like, what are we doing? I'd be like, I don't know, we're solving a mystery, and that would be fine. But yeah, she doesn't add anything in the way that a lot of these other characters in B
I mean,
do.
a few points for being a cat girl, but it's also weird because she has cat feet. Or does she?
I think she does. I think she factually does.
I like her design. It's just, I think it's to Jason's point. I don't know if she has any memorable hooks that you can look at a lot of the characters above her and be like, oh yeah, this is her thing. And also the design is cool or whatever. All right, let's head across the water to Fontaine. We have 17 characters left. There's going to be a couple we don't spend much time on. And we might as well start by discussing both of these, although we don't have to rank them the same, obviously. But let's discuss both Lynette and Linny at the same time.
I really like Lynette's design. I wish her character was a little more interesting. She was kind of flat in that first kind of case. I liked Linny. I thought he was a little more interesting. I liked the trial with him. The Ace Attorney fan in me is always a big fan of, being accused of murder and then you gotta solve the case, so like that was fun. I like that they're magicians. It's a fun little thing for them. It makes them unique and kind of stand out in a cast this large. They kind of have their niche and their thing that they are good at. And they work well together, so I'm fine with them being in like B.
So
I think,
go for it, Doug.
The Hangout event did wonders for Lynette as far as a character.
Yeah,
I agree, and I'll mention that. But continue.
And I think that just the whole thing with like her being flat is a little bit on purpose until you get into something that she's really, really interested in, like the whole detective event, which was her hangout. It's, the only shame is it's not at all mentioned during any part of the story, just the events.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, her hangout event. I've said it multiple times. I haven't done so and so's quest, or I did hers. I also have done Cookies, but like I wanted to know more about her. I'm like, what's her deal? Because she is always so flat, but seems like she should be kind of interesting. She is. She's genuinely interesting, and I don't know who they paid to write her event. I know there's no way all the other character little hangouts are as cool as hers. Hers is like this multiple branching detective mystery where you handle different like one of them is like a murder mystery where you like break up a smuggling ring, and then the other one is like this other murder mystery kind of involving like an attempted like death threats with like a play that she's in. They're all great, and her involvement, and you see the flat that she is both because she is just not a social person. She's incredibly introverted, so flat is like her default thing. Doing any kind of energy to like put on a face for people takes her energy. She's really not a fan of it, but she'll do it when it's like her job, when she's a magician. But her being kind of like the doll, the prop in the magician thing very much fits like her mindset of like she's very in her head. She's almost like stuck in her head. And when they give her like a detective mystery where she gets to do that, where she gets to turn over the little social interactions or the clues or put things together, you see so many of the similarities in that sort of secret agent vibe that Linny has. She has a lot of them too. And you can see why she's an important part of the combo between them. I grew to like her a lot more than I even like Linny, because I like that her whole vibe in their magician thing. He's the magician. He's loud. He's boisterous. He's the center of attention. He's the one in the spotlight. He's the fire element. She fades into the shadows. She's designed to be invisible. She's just the prop to help everything work so that the light is only on her when it is necessary for what is happening. Otherwise, she is just helping like sell the illusion. And I think that element of her is in her character, and it sells it really well in her event. She's just so good at like piecing things together and hiding, being very covert, like the things that she'll say, the things that she'll hide from other people while she's picking up clues and stuff. She'd be a phenomenal detective in this game if they I assume being a magician pays better, but like she's really good at that. She would be a good spy, and I think that they show that very well, especially given the connection that the two of them have to the whole House of the Hearth. I haven't done any of the Arlecchino stuff yet. I'm behind, but like, if you were to tell me that those two are designed to like inherit the intelligence network of like Shiniznaya and all that, I would easily believe it. And I wouldn't even say that she's just an afterthought to Lenny. I would say that she might be part of the brains behind his face. He's the face of it. He does a lot of it, and she might even be behind the scenes. And I think that really shows with her. I think she's purposefully flat, and you overlook her. And I actually think that they really pay that off, where if you do her event, you do talk to her, you do get to know her, it pays off in every single way. And you realize that's almost the point of her character, is that you are supposed to overlook her. I like that. I really like that. I would say she's like high A. But that's
she also has like one of the most insane backstories where she was like sold into human trafficking as a kid.
Yeah.
I did not think Genshin was gonna go there, and it just, I don't know, it was like a cool change of tone kind of for the game.
Yeah, and okay, this is not relevant to her character, but an actual cat girl with cat girl ears. Not just a cat that got turned into a girl, an actual cat girl, at least insofar as anybody in Fontaine is a real person. So, you know, that's...
Which renders every part of this tier list irrelevant then, because are any of these people real? Then they're all from a video game, so are any of them real?
Exactly.
But
I think go for it.
The tricky part for me is I like Lynette's design quite a bit too. To circle back to what Michaela originally said, one of my favorite designs in the game, because it matches the magician's assistant, but they could have been boring or just like taking the simple road with that, and they didn't. There's a lot of little touches with her that I like. Lenny has I like his personality quite a bit, and I think. Obviously, through the main story, which Michaela mentioned, we have the Phoenix Wright nods everywhere, and we have, that was all great. I liked that part of the story quite a bit. But I also liked when they showed up in the underwater prison. I thought that part was also a kind of a fun showcase for them. And I guess you could argue Fremine, who we'll get to in a minute, but I wasn't as sold on him. So, to me, I actually have them ranked pretty similarly, and as I'm trying to figure out where to put them, I think they have to be an A. And the reason for that is just because they both have such fun personalities that can bounce off of each other so well. And as I'm looking at some of the characters in A, including the ones that may move down, like Kuching, and the ones we mentioned, Ganyu, I feel like they're better than them. So, to me, I think they both have to be an A. You could quibble with where. I think I have Lynette probably a little bit higher than Lenny, but I also wouldn't be upset if they ended up next to each other like a couple other pairings have.
I think if it went like Mona, Lynette, Lenny, I think I'd be fine with it.
I think I'm about there, too.
I'm good with that, too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay.
Consensus.
Because I liked both of them quite a bit, and then again, they show up again in the underwater prison. They show up again with Arlecchino, and every time they show up, I'm like, oh, good, you guys are here more and more.
And Lenny is
they're
great.
Dynamic together. Like, they're a really good match for each other, and they bounce off.
And I have her higher than him because I think we all have her slightly, or not all, but as a group, I think we have her slightly higher than him, so I think that makes sense.
I do like her design a lot. She's got such a good vibe.
Yeah. Yep, no, I agree. I think her design wins out. Lenny's also good as an individual. He's in the Chlorinde quest, which I haven't finished all the way yet, but their little D&D game, he's really good in that too. As like a solo, it's just him.
Nice.
We have a lot of oversized personalities in Fontaine. It seems like, as Jason alluded to, it's them kind of cutting loose. And you can also see that they're cutting loose more on designs. It's very fascinating to see these first few characters for Natlan after we censored several characters that were out in 1.0. It's just not, we're not going to get into that in a ton. I'm just putting it out there now. We'll talk about it at a later date. But it's interesting to see, as Genshin has become more popular, they've clearly gotten the reins loosened a bit to have more like big characters and also more salacious designs.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about the third child. I don't have him in A.
No, I don't really care about him at all. He's very flat. If I thought Lynette was flat, but at least she has depth, that it sounds like I need to go investigate, and I would be happy to do that. I don't know about this kid.
He's like neurodivergence incarnate. Like he's super like in his own head, super doesn't talk to the outside world, kind of understands it in his own way. The little event that he was in with the penguin was a very touching, very special event, and did a lot to flesh out like how empathetic and caring he is, despite him effectively just being like a robot. And I think that's kind of how they're trying to stress that he's very neurodivergent. He doesn't act like you would expect, but he does feel things. He's a very like empathetic, caring person none of that shows. I think that's super cool, but ultimately he just shows up and effectively doesn't do a whole lot or really want to get involved or really have any kind of energy that he brings.
He just wants to go swimming.
Yeah, he's
swimming and tinkering.
Yeah, he's like C, D. He's in there. He's somewhere, I would say, probably low C, unfortunately.
Maybe behind Klee, like between Klee and Sucrose feels right. But
that's fine.
I think
that's fine. Yeah.
I would feel bad.
I do think it's funny. Go ahead, Chris.
I was just say I would feel bad putting him in D. Even I just think he's unremarkable by design. So they nailed the design, but it doesn't mean I have to like it. I'm kind of like, oh, you're here every time he shows up.
Yeah,
I do think it's funny that for design wise, they gave him a diving helmet when everybody now has this blessing that they can just breathe underwater anyway.
Correct.
Yeah.
He's committed to the aesthetic, and you have to appreciate it.
I'm fine with C for him. All right, now the game doesn't know how to say this name, but I think we finally found some voice direction that settled on Neuvillette, so let's go with that.
Nervalette.
Yeah.
Nervalette.
Neuvillette.
I mean, I think we all have to decide. Look, I think he's got to be S, right?
Whoa.
Whoa.
Oh, okay. We're already bumping into some things. Look, I've definitely got some higher people that I would say would be an S. If we want to put him in A, that's fine. But the first Dragon Hydro Sovereign, the sheer amount of power that he wields, yet he wields it responsibly. His just seeing a competent ruler to a country gives tons of points for that. I think the voice acting is phenomenal. I think
Chase, I mean, yeah, he is really good.
I mean, again, we're not talking about their kit or their power level, but even that. But if we're talking about translating a kit so that it feels like you're his whole design is all one big circle, he's the most powerful broken character that can solo everything. And realistically, as a dragon sovereign, he probably should be. I also think story wise, the way that they included him, the way that he kind of helped you piece things together towards the end. I think just the whole Hydro Dragon, don't cry thing also is that's all very touching. The fact that so much of that plot revolved around basically righting a wrong that was done against him and his people. He's super important for that. I think he's really high up there. If he's not S, then he has to be at least high A. So
I think he belongs in A, but I think S is pushing it. I don't know. He doesn't have enough going on.
Yeah, I think that's where I'm at too, is I think A, because he does have an arc and it is very interesting and compelling. I just don't know if he is S tier material. I thought Ray Chase does good with the voice direction he's given. He's a very Zhongli type character, very solemn in his deliveries. And
dragon.
He's a dragon, so it makes sense. It tracks. I just didn't love this character personally. I mean, every time he showed up, I was like, okay, we're probably gonna get some interesting things with him. I like that he starts to learn empathy over time through Navia, and that part of the story quest. And it improves. I'm going
to put Doug in the awkward position of having to break the tie because I also have him in S, and it's for the reasons Jason mentioned and also Ray Chase. But to me, it's what Michaela just said that was the most important. He has two really good relationships to me that made him an S, and it was Navia when she was going through all the shit she went through. We'll get to her soon. And it was Fiorina, who we will also get to soon. Yep. They're coming up. They're only a few heads away. He has the perfect ability to manipulate her craziness exactly the way he needs to. So he's the best foil for her because he puts up with her crazy because they're on friendly terms and they're both useful to each other. But him deadpanning everything she does is a fun time every time it happens. But he was also super considerate and consoling to Navia when she's going through all the shit she did. And that was, I think, the two things that really pushed him over the top for me. But that does mean that Doug is in an awkward position because we have two S's and two A's and his vote's going to matter. I will say no other character in this game has had a banger like the Oratrice Mécanique d'Analyse Cardinal.
Yo, true. But if this was a comedy bit, if we were doing a comedy and and we would have Fiorina and Navia, and there are two, one of them is the super optimistic and I'm doing whatever, and one of them is sort of the oh ho ho and I'm the blah blah blah. They need a straight man. and he is the perfect straight man. But in this case, it's not a comedy necessarily, it's a tragedy, and he plays perfectly off of all of them in what I would argue is probably the best storyline that this story has gotten so far. That's my argument. Like, and to Michaela's point, he is like Zhongli. He runs the city, he's very stern, he's very by the books. However, unlike Zhongli, we see him like be willing to adapt and move forward and make changes to how he handles things. And we see like we get to see the things that we saw him learn, the struggles he went through, the characters he bounced off of. He learned his lessons, and now we're actually seeing him like paying it forward in a way, which we can get to when we get to Farina, but he pays it forward for her in so many ways that then demonstrate his character growth. What have I seen for Zhongli other than he sits around, sips tea, and goes, "Guess my job is over, retirement, baby." And it's like, okay, cool. What the fuck does that mean? So like, I would argue that that's when we talk about like showing character growth and earning it. I think he's done it. They haven't just like he's still got tons more he can do in this game, but he has already made progress and demonstrated that progress, which characters have learned things in this game, but not all of them have done anything with that. And he already is and will continue to do so going forward, I have to imagine.
Mm-hmm. It is an awkward position because I couldn't decide between S and A. I did. You guys kept on talking about him being a dragon, and so is Zhongli. And I do remember the event where they had a chance to meet, and Zhongli dips, and he's like, "Don't fucking tell him I'm here. Don't tell him I'm here." Oh gosh, I think it's going to be an S.
The only thing I will say, and it looks like it's going to end up in S because of the 3-2, but like if he's not an S and Ito is, I think we have a problem.
Correct. No, I agree.
Yeah. No, that is fair.
Yeah. And I don't mind both of them being an S because, again, even though I'm not the biggest Ito fan, I kind of went along with that last time, and I'm not trying to push him out, but like I think his head better push Ito's over, or we've done something wrong.
I agree 100%. And I'm probably one of the big reasons Ito's on the top of that list, but he does not deserve to be better.
And I think even when it's close, and this is why maybe Wanderer does make it in the bottom of S at the end of this, we'll see. But like when you have a group setting like this, you're always going to push the bell curve towards the middle because it's really hard to get consensus on the extremes unless we all hate the character and they drop into D without a second thought. But like in general, it's going to be hard to get somebody to really all align and push somebody up there, although we're about to with 2 more characters. So, like, if it's close, I think this does make more sense. It's why Wanderer might make it as well. We'll see at the end. Rossley.
I like him. He's probably A. I think he's better than Kashing and especially Toma and all of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. He's an oddball character in that, like, he plays things very close to the chest. I don't know that we've gotten all of his real backstory or really delved super deep into it. Back when they had leaks before Fontaine came out, one of the characters definitely seems to be like a guard or like, I don't know, a villain or something, but is tied to like she has an outfit that matches like his. And like, so there's definitely something in the Fortress of Mirapede that we have not like addressed or touched or whatever. But like he runs a tight ship. He's kind of got that like rugged gentleman thing. I think he delivers on that. His fighting style is really good, which I know doesn't matter a whole lot, but like you see him using cutscenes. He's got the like the cool gauntlets and like he's fucking punching things, which like the kind of pugilist, rough and tumble prison aesthetic works for him. You're like, is he a prisoner or is he a guard? And the answer is yes. And his design sells that, and his personality sells that. So he's solid. I'd say he's super solid. He's got to be, I think, at least an A. But
I agree. I like this guy. I like his voice actor. Joe Zizia does a great job. And I like that he is like more punchy man. It's unique because we have so few combat types and weapon types in this game. There's so little variety, so that when they can tweak a character like him to have some diversity in his combat and in his design and aesthetic, I think that's super cool. So yeah, I like him. I think he fits an A. And I hope we get more of his backstory at some point, because that would be cool.
Yeah. I think he's going to go underneath Sino. Anybody want to tweak that?
That works.
No, that's fine.
That works for me.
No, that's
good.
Yeah.
There's no shame in that. It's still decently high up in A. It's just I don't think like it can't go above like Nahida. So
yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Charlotte, who I mean, I guess I have to be a little bit biased towards because I am the journalist. So like as far as 4 stars
is
go, I
true.
was like, oh cool, and I like her design. And when she shows up, she does some interesting stuff. I don't know that I can have her any higher than B at most, but I was like, oh, Charlotte, I like Charlotte.
I think she's high B. Maybe I'm crazy, but I also really like her. I like the energy she brings. She's like the perfect instrument in this story for like, and the user as much to just investigate or like uncover something or like, because that's what she does. She shows up. She's like, "Can I do an interview? Oh, I would just love to do an interview." And her voice actress sells it so well. She's like a musician. The voice actress is. She has songs
Oh.
out there on YouTube. She's good at singing. They got a band. But like she brings this bubbly, like, ooh, like old timey. Like if she had an accent and she was like, "Let's get to the bottom of this right now," you would totally believe it because that's the vibes she's selling. And like, I love that about her. Every time she shows up, I'm like, ooh, we're gonna go and do some investigative journalism. We might, break a few windows and get in where we're not supposed to. Like that's her vibe. And like, I like that. I like that she brings that to the story. I don't know. I think she's high B. I might even
probably there
argue low
too.
A, but I would say high B is fine.
I like the idea of putting her in high B as well. I like her a lot too. I think her design is super cute. I love that, like, as part of her combat, she takes pictures.
And you can,
and
if you
like
got the item.
freezes enemies.
Yeah.
Like that's fun. And just like a fun little twist. And I like that she's driven and motivated, particularly in that first case. That was very memorable. I like her. I think high B sounds good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think she could go like right behind Kaveh or something. But
Yeah.
It's about what I had
Yeah.
in mind.
Yeah.
B for
Love it.
beeline. Or byline? Byline?
Byline.
Yeah,
Byline,
that's it.
yeah.
She
Yeah.
did make a beeline in the story quest to get there as quickly as possible, but
Yes.
journalist one's
yes.
a byline. All right, I need to refill my water. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce Fiorina, and I think the only thing we're going to be figuring out here is she S1 or S2? Maybe I'm wrong,
She's S1.
but I'm going to turn the
She's
floor over to
S1.
Jason. I have the phone
Okay.
on, so I'll still hear it. I'm going to get water. Go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay, she's S1. She's the best character in this game. I mean, I could just say period. It's why she's the thumbnail on this video. Like, look, the reality is that like when it comes to having the best story that the game has come out with, when it comes to having the most emotion, the most genuine mystery is, and you're not sure where they're going with it, and having a reveal that feels like it pays something off. When it comes to world building and like the whole concepts of fate and like what is a determined reality, when we have humor, whether it's like those scenes where you pan up to her and she's trying to like hold a pose for far too long, which is just ridiculous and stupid, and it makes you laugh, or you see her just suffering under so much torment that you're like, oh my god, I feel so fucking bad, and you, the character, the player, getting like, you kind of grow to hate her, and that's the point that the story wants you to do, because that's her lot in life, is to kind of almost be that person, and you end up becoming part of the you're the voice in the crowd during her scene where she's listening, she's trying to be the most genuine, heartfelt person, and you're like, go for it, Fiorina, do your thing. And she talks, and everybody just belittles her and says, I don't know that I believe her. Can she really do it? And is this real? And suddenly she's like, I think I fucked up. They don't believe me. And then she turns on the charm and the act, and but every single thing those people in that audience were saying, every doubt that they would have had, or all the doubts that you've leveled at her as a player, is she really the Archon? Can she really do this? I don't know. She seems kind of incompetent. Like, you are the reason that she is suffering. You, the player, are like turned into that. And they do such a good job at delivering that. And the voice actress, phenomenal. Just an instrument in storytelling. I think Fiorina is something that you can play entire games and not find. And the fact that they managed to deliver it here in Genshin, I think she has to be top of S, at least for now. Maybe this will change at some point in Genshin's history. But if we're just talking pure character, the story, the acting, just where she fits in everything. Her kid, I was mentioning it earlier, the fact that then post that you get to kind of help see her deal with her new lot in life, the struggles she goes through, kind of getting back out of her shell. What does that mean? Can she even still occupy that role? What does it even mean to be herself at that point? The struggle she goes through into acting, to eventually getting her vision of Nouvelette sort of paying it forward and giving her both forms of the fucking Fontaine mechanic, where you can do the whatever Usia and Numa or whatever the fuck it's called. And like you see that then through her. She does the D&D thing. She does all the other like movie stuff in the events. Then she does in the Chlorine event, she does like D&D. And there's so many great little moments where like when they're sitting around the D&D table and you've got like Linny and Navia there, and they're like, and Chlorine's like, okay, well, there's like an easy mode where like you can make your rolls and it could be good or it could be bad, or there's like an average. You just sort of like take 10 on everything and you kind of, or like you always succeed or whatever. And of course, Linny and Navi are like, fuck yeah, bring the challenge, baby. I want to roll and see what happens. And Farina, unsure, as she often is, of exactly what kind of situation she's getting into, and she doesn't want to cause any undue stress. She's not really sure. You see those little moments, she'll be like, I think I'm going to take the safe option. I just want to be here and see how things go and just enjoy it with people that I like. And you see that element of her in those little moments. It's great. It's phenomenal. Like top to bottom, big story, little story. I don't know, top of S. Like, I don't know, come at me, I guess. I don't know how. You're going to have a really strong argument to convince me otherwise. So.
No, I think that's fair. I mean, I will be sad that Kazuha will be usurped as the number one, but I think you make a lot of great points, and I think she is easily the best Archon so far. I mean, Raiden was really cool and her story was really compelling, but we needed her later character event with her sister and her grief to really kind of tie it all together. Because without that, it just felt like a dictator a little bit of like, well, I'm just going to take away your things because I don't like it. And it was a little bit shallow. But then once we got her grief and her full story, it was really great. Furina already has, I mean, she has all of it, and she's funny. She's, I love her interactions with Nouvelette, where like she, you know, is just bouncing off of him, and the scenes how she moves, and like it plays into the comedy, but also the ultimate tragedy of her too. So like I think it, and I love her design. She's really cool. I think it makes sense.
I'm not gonna argue.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't dare. Wouldn't dare. I'll be quietly sad, but I'm not gonna fight it whatsoever.
Doug?
Thing here, by the way, I just unmuted, so I'm back. The most telling thing for me is when her very first scene happened, as you're pulling up in Fontaine and she's standing up above you on this balcony and she's putting on a show for the crowd as to be expected. I was like, I don't know about this. And, you know, I'm as big of an official advocate as anybody here. And I was like, is this what we're doing again? Like this sort of like megalomaniac, like delusional, but coming from a good place kind of character? Because I'm like, that's fine and all. And I guess at a certain point when you have 80 characters, you can't really help but repeat. But that was with no understanding of what was going to come through all the trials and tribulations, the very poignant moments throughout the story. And the fact that, again, this game needs fun characters. And a lot of the characters are fun, but like they need characters that everybody else can bounce off of in a way that is interactive and enjoyable. And you can argue that she's the best at that of anybody because she has the moments where she can sort of take a step back and finally be real with people and be like, okay, like, yeah, fine. Like, I don't need to put on this show. This matters a lot, so let's take care of this thing and not just have to all be boisterous and nonsensical. So, like, to me, I have no qualms with her being S1, and that's not what I would have thought would have happened at the start.
No. Yeah, and, you know, we talked about Nahida earlier. Sometimes, like, so much of her wisdom is sort of couched in this sort of mystical, dreamlike, childlike quality. Whereas, like, Farina is just incredibly old and presumably very wise, but just because she's been around fucking forever. And there are actually some very subtle ways that they do that with her writing that I think where like I think there's one of the events where they're like, hey, can you like be like a director for us or whatever? And she's like, well, I'd love to, but like you have to pay me. And they're like, well, I don't know, we're poor. And she's like, okay, well, I can't just take a job If I take a job for little, then that sets a standard for what the other like directors will end up having to take. So I have to be compensated in some way. Otherwise, it sets a trend for the market. And like there, you get this feeling that like her understanding of just economy, like how Fontaine and its politics and its circles work, is actually incredibly deep. But like she demonstrates that in little ways that like I don't think Nahita's gonna be running around being like, oh, did you know that if you spend too much money on the market here, then like the shares will go up over it? Like she's not going to do that. Whereas like you can't do that with Farina, and it makes sense. And you believe that she's old, I guess is the point I'm trying to make here. You believe that she's lived the life that the game wants you to believe that she's lived, to the point where when you meet her and she's making new ground and trying to learn something new about herself, it feels earned and real. And I don't know about everybody else, but like I'm interested to see what they're going to do with her going forward with like Nouvelette and the Hydro Sovereign thing, the other Archons. She is effectively just a really cool special person, just a human now. And I think seeing how that is going to work going forward, especially if like Celestia starts getting involved and they're going to be like, oh yeah, we're here for the Hydro Archon. And then they look at the Hydro Archon and it's just Farina and she's like, hi, I'm not the Archon anymore. Oops. Like, how's that going to work? What's that going to mean? Like she's just a girl now. She's just a girl trying to like be a director or like make some movies or something, or like, yeah, I don't know. She's top of one. I don't know why I'm making arguments for her. But
Kazuha tried to fight. Did you see that? Did you see him try and hold on to his spot?
Kazuha did.
He tried. He really did.
He was like, no. But he had to move. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, just let's move from one gut punched character to another effectively. I don't think to the same level as Furina, but still, I was not super impressed by Navi at the start either, and I thought her design was fine. But again, I think going through the main story and everything she went through also was interesting for me. So let's see where she ranks now.
I mean, I'm going to be honest. I think she's S. She's up there with Yoimiya, with Nouvelette, with Farina. Every time she shows up, I'm like, hell yeah, it's fucking Navia. Let's go. She is a constant source of like random humor and optimism and positivity, the way that Yoimiya is. But you get a lot of that kind of occasional humor that like Farina kind of had before she, became a real girl and was allowed to be herself. But Navi gets to keep a lot of that. The fact that she keeps showing up in events and is like great in every single one. She's great in this new one now. She showed up with like a mustache and I fucking almost lost it. I was like, what the fuck is happening? Does she have a Mario mustache and a Bowser like crown? What the fuck is happening? And she just goes by King the whole time. And then like they'll be like, I don't know, maybe we could like change things. And she'd be like, yeah, you know what you should do? You should start an organization to help support people. You should call it the Spina di Rasula. And I'm like, Navi, what the fuck are you doing? She was like, yeah, the Spina di Rasula, whatever the name of the city is. Like, she's ridiculous, but in a believable way. She's effectively just a super cheerful, optimistic cheerleader mafia boss. And somehow that works in her character. On top of having a top tier design, the voice acting is always super bubbly and awesome. I think a lot of that really cool energy that like Yoimiya brings, Navia brings with just a little extra bit of pizzazz. And to the Nouvelette point, I think Navia is kind of the emotional like center of Nouvelette's character growth. And you feel that with her. She was the first character to have actual crying in this game? Like Navia also brings incredibly low lows alongside the high highs. And whether it's like her almost dying or whatever, like you feel that in this game every single time. You grow to love her, and she's lovable. She is. I mean, we won't even talk about her, second and third in command or whatever and all that. But like, if we're including the characters around her and like where that goes in, it's some of the most touching parts of the story. I think she has to be S. I guess I'm just arguing whether she's like third or fourth. So
yeah, I think you do have to talk about Melus and Silver a little bit. And it's not really fair to, because you could then bring in accompanying NPCs with other characters here, but they really are a package deal until the two of them die. So like,
spoilers.
What?
What? I mean, they just dissolve. They're fine.
They're relevant after they die, realistically.
Yeah, that's also true. So like, I think the three of their personalities, again, the two of them serve as sort of like a counterbalance and a foil for her, and then also New Violette does. Like, there's a lot of ways where she's not even as far-fetched as, you know, a couple of people we mentioned, like Official or Fiorina were. Like, again, it's more of a believable type of crazy, as Jason said, but, like, I don't know. It's another character that I went in with relatively low expectations, and I think it speaks to Fontaine as a whole that they managed to hit so many different moving moments in different settings in different ways. I don't know if I have her like third, but I do think she's an S. We can quibble over where.
I'm wondering if Yaimiko needs to move to A and we put Navia in her spot. Because I think
wouldn't
she's
be
that
against
strong of
that.
a character.
I mean, I'm gonna argue she's above Yoimiya as much as I love her, but I
Wrong.
will I will accept I will accept I'm gonna get outvoted on that one. Okay, that's totally fine. I mean, look, Navia's even great in Clorin's D&D game. Like, Navia is that player. She's that player at the D&D table who's like, "Ooh, let's go talk to the NPC," and you're like, "Okay, what are you gonna ask them?" And she's like, "Oh, do you wanna? What did you have for breakfast this morning?" And you're like, "Navia." Stop. She's Sean, okay? She's Sean at the table, okay? That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
I'm rearranging some things. Now, there's still a
Not arguing.
possibility that Yamiko and or Raiden move down, and also the 3 and A that we mentioned. I'm just going to put them at the very end. We're going to see how they hang on. I mean, at this point, I think it's like it's here or here. What?
You leave my girl alone. Yoimiya earned that spot. Stop
She
it.
did.
You haven't even C6'd her yet.
No.
What are you talking about?
Hey, she's C4. She's on her way.
All right, we'll put her fourth. All right. We're about the halfway point through this, and next up is Chevruz.
Who? I'm
Boring.
sorry, I don't
Whoa.
like this.
Okay. Clearly, some people didn't do the movie event because.
Yeah.
I did.
Uh-oh.
What? Uh-oh. Okay.
Conflict.
Yeah,
I don't
so
like her.
I think she's genuinely interesting, and I think the military background and like maybe she's not A, maybe she's not A, but at least like B, right?
She
At
is
least
not A.
okay. What about B? We can settle on B at least, right? Like
Yeah,
I guess.
I definitely could.
I don't like her.
what?
I don't
Okay,
even know if I
okay,
can put my finger on why. I just don't like her.
okay. So the vibes are missing you on Chevruz.
Yes.
I mean,
Okay, that's fair.
I like her, but I don't think she's any higher than B.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't. I think it's a similar vibe thing for me. I just don't really care about this character at all.
She can be below like Shenhe. Like
But above Layla?
I mean,
I don't know about that one.
That's as far as I'm going.
There. I feel
Okay.
better about that one.
Let's talk about gaming. Gaming! But actually gaming. But you get the idea. His name just says
Yeah.
gaming. I know there's a different pronunciation. I know there's a hyphen in some forms of this, but his name is gaming, which is already strike one.
Yeah,
Mhm.
I don't know why they should have just had they could have done a little apostrophe or a dash or something to
Space.
emphasize the correct pronunciation that they are going for, I assume. I don't know. This guy just feels so out of place. a little
They just wanted to
bit.
make sure that he had the biggest subreddit.
yeah.
I mean, he had a fun event.
He is fun though.
Yeah. Like he
He
is kind of a
did-
fun character. The name aside, which I know again, like we can make fun of it, but it's more of a traditional Chinese thing. I understand. So like I don't want to put him in D just because the name is silly. That's crazy to me.
No,
but like
no,
I
he's
do
not.
have him
He
in
doesn't
C.
belong there.
I think C's fine. Here's the thing. I actually think he has a surprising amount of depth. I think the story, the little event that they did, you get to meet his family and you see the struggles with his dad. I think there's a very good emotional core there. I don't know that I cared a whole lot. Like,
Yeah.
I know that sucks to hear, but like, it feels very like I'm doing all these super cool things. I'm like, I think maybe it was just a tonal thing where like I've just been helping like Navia deal with her fucking dad, and then we're like, oh, what do you know? Some people have been pretending to be fucking like archons for like 500 fucking years, and there's been suffering eternal torment. And he shows up and he's like, me and my dad don't get along, and I'm like, okay, kid, well, that sucks for you, I guess, but like, big fucking whoop, I guess. Like, not to be like callous, because it is important. It matters to his character, and like, it doesn't suck. He has more character than a lot of other people in this list for sure. But it's mundane. That's what he's a very mundane character in a way that I think holds him back. He almost feels like he could belong in any game, any gaming, and maybe it doesn't matter that he's in this one per se. I don't know that I felt it was connected. Maybe that's just me. I don't know. Maybe that's, I don't know. See?
No, I think you're onto something. Like he could fit in like a Honkai or a Zenless or something. He feels like he could be plugged into those other games. It doesn't feel like he really fits into Genshin specifically.
Yeah, if you met him on the Laofu in Star Rail and he was struggling with his dad who was selling stuff at his shop or whatever, he'd feel like he belonged. None of that would feel out of place. And it's because nothing ties him to Genshin, which you could argue is a strength. You could argue that like it's a very relatable everyday story, but I don't know. I guess in this game, I want maybe a little bit extra pizzazz because some of these characters are like fucking gods. So like, you know, he feels incredibly mundane in this cast, to his detriment, I think. But if people love him, I totally get it. I totally do. It's just not, you know, I think that's fair. Yeah, I think that's fair.
That's where I've settled on him. I will certainly take arguments against, but it feels like I can't put him above D-Luke, and that's about as high as I can go and see.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
Because D-Luke is Batman, and gaming is gaming.
Yep.
Shan Yun, which I guess by proxy means Cloud Retainer, which makes it sort of an interesting character to rank because there's two forms, sort of, and like it's complicated. I will say as we jump into this is the other character I kind of regret not pulling. I don't really even necessarily like this design a ton, but playing her I thought was a ton of fun.
Yeah,
I agree. I remember doing her trial and being like, I should try to get her. Didn't happen, but I remember like wanting to try for it because she was super fun to play as. And I liked her design pretty good. It definitely turned me around on the Cloud Retainer character because I hated her in Crane form. She was just like typical old lady vibes, cranky and just boring. So I like that in her human form she's a little more interesting and very fun to play as well.
One does not like her manner of speaking.
No, one would not.
Yeah, and like you both make solid points. Like I have also enjoyed the trial with her in it. And I'm like, it's kind of fun to hop around like this. This is like, you know, you get to jump around. I guess she's really good for like C6 Farina, which is something I have to keep in mind going forward. I'm also not a huge fan of Cloud Retainer as bird or you know, lady. Like, however, to Michaela's point, I think her character growth, her deciding to actually start interacting with the mortals of the city and trying to get to know the people of Liyue, and that being this character is Cloud Retainer's character growth embodied, literally. This is her deciding that she's going to maybe be a bit more active for the sake of her daughters that she's adopted like way too many of or whatever. So like I think that's actually kind of interesting. Like, yeah, I don't know. I also didn't really care for the design, don't really care for the bird. I had fun playing the kit, but like, I don't know. She's probably like a B, maybe. I don't know if I have to nail it down.
That almost feels high.
Yeah, it almost does, but
because C is for Cloud Retainer, but I do think I have her in low B.
I think like, low B.
It'd be high C if it was.
Yeah, B for bird. Yeah, that's good. B for
B
boobs.
For bird,
wait, no, don't do that.
No.
Where in B?
She can.
Huh?
Yeah, like there seems good.
Huh? Sure.
I definitely put her above Hu Tao. I don't really care for Hu Tao, so that's
put her in front of Ayato, but I don't care.
Like
they have the similar hair, don't they?
Yeah.
They have almost the exact same hair.
Kind of, yeah.
They do.
And it'd be nice if we could put like Shenhe next to her or something, but that's not how this works. So.
Yeah. I think that's good.
All right, Chiori.
I like her design. I don't really know why she's here.
Yeah.
And like she's like a seamstress or something, and I'm like, okay,
This
I guess.
happens like whenever they release a character not tied with their region, they just feel out of place.
Yes.
And I think that's what happened with her.
Yeah, she feels really random.
She kind of is. She has ties to, like, her shop has been there the whole time, and the NPCs talk about her. So, like, she's a character that has technically existed in Fontaine the entire time, but you are correct. She's not relevant in any way.
Yeah, I think
which it keeps her out of any real high ranking. I like her personality. She's very like blunt, but very sort of like intimidating, but in a very like polite sort of like she's not brash or anything. Like she's a very interesting personality that I think maybe they nailed. They threaded a needle, which that could have ended up her looking like a bunch of other things. I think she's very interesting and her design's very cool, but she is effectively irrelevant in every single way.
I think Kate's point is a salient one, because I think to myself, I don't know what the answer is, to be clear. Like, you can't not have other characters from the previous regions never show up. I feel like that's a mistake. But when they do, at least to this point, like the exception, I guess, is Shan Yun, who we just ranked, but then again, like Cloud Retainer was around before, so it's cheating the system a bit. But like, does Ganming get any favors because now he's a new Liyue character 2 years after we cared about Liyue? I don't think it helps. It's like you said, he's almost out of place in the game as a whole. Like Sethos, who we'll get to in a minute. Do I really care that like he's from Sumeru now that we've moved past that region? I don't think I do. So I don't know what the answer is, but I do think Chiori's ranking and just characters like her have suffered because of that lack of relevance.
Yeah, I mean, and she, I don't know, it's tough. And she's sort of an Inazuma in Fontaine, and you see sort of like the bits and pieces of both within who she is and how she dresses and everything. And I think that's cool. I like what they did with her character. This is sort of like, I think she's kind of a success. Maybe not as much of a success as Kirara is, but I think she nails what she's trying to do, but I don't know that what she's doing added a whole lot to the game that was really needed in any way. She's kind of a superfluous. She is in effect the bow on the present. She is a little extra something that you don't need, and ultimately you probably would have torn off if you were trying to get to the meat of it. So
now the question is, can she dodge C because her name starts with C?
I don't know if she can.
I don't know. I think C is for Chiori.
I was going to put her high, like here.
Yeah, I think that's fine.
But I don't think I can get her in B.
Candace is a cooler character than her.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's fair.
I like her design. But, you know, C is for Candace, C is for Chiori, C is for Noelle.
Can we at least admit that her shoes are probably the coolest in the game? Can we at least do that?
Sure.
Okay.
No, that's acceptable.
Let me go find a picture of her shoes. We'll put it in S tier above Fiorina.
Okay.
This one's going to be controversial, I think. Arlecchino.
I would put her in S.
I'm sure you guys will.
She's great.
I have to step out of this one.
I really like her design. I love her voice acting. I love her story. It's super fascinating to me. Very tragic. Her story trailer is beautiful. Like, just absolutely. I think it was her story trailer. Maybe it was her character trailer. I don't remember. Whatever trailer it was that dealt with her backstory and reveals kind of why she goes by the title or the moniker of father. And for the Children of the Hearth, I might be getting that name wrong. Anyway, she's great, and she's so incredibly fun to play as, and just an absolute powerhouse. And she's intimidating as one of the harbingers. I think she's super cool. She is the second character I've ever put in S tier, like strongly, because I think she's that interesting and compelling. She has all the pieces. She has a great story, great voice acting, great character design, great combat. Like, she ticks all the boxes for me.
Yeah, that times 2. I agree fully. I think she belongs ahead of Navia.
But not Yoimiya.
I would that.
No, well, let's not get crazy.
Okay, just checking.
We can't get crazy. But I think that's where I'd put her too.
Doug.
Ditto.
Damn.
Nice.
You know, it's the thing. It was when you're going like second, third, last. It's kind of like, well, what hasn't already been said? Arlecchino, the reason why she chose the name Father is because the mother was putting on a face, but was like seriously like abusing the children, and she's putting on a face of not caring about the children, but really, really caring about them.
Yeah.
That
Like she has a surprising heart of gold, despite how incredibly intimidating she acts and is to everyone else. She actually does have this center, and it's really, really beautiful.
Yeah, no, she's an S.
Yeah, I think we're gonna get pushback from Jason when he returns. He does not like this design. I've never really been able to figure out why.
Look, I can't. The reality is that I've never been wowed by her. She makes a great villain, though. I haven't engaged with any of her quests, although I've heard they're all amazing, and I'm sure that they are. I basically have to abstain from this, which I realize is just getting rid of my vote, but I cannot, in any fairness, say that I've engaged with any of the real story and everything around her, whether it's her being kind of a villainous character in Fontaine's main story, which I think she does very good. She's very good at being like the kind of villain that you actually would maybe want on your side, and she isn't actively trying to like just evil it up the whole time. I think the other characters underneath her, Linny and Lynette, there's a reason that they were placed so high. The reality is like she's like a complete miss for me for whatever reason, but I can still sit here and admit, yeah, she probably needs to be super high, but I haven't engaged with any of her to give you a solid opinion. So as much as I'd love to be like, oh, I hate her, she's D, I don't even hate her. It's a complete miss for me.
I think she's just too butch for you.
Maybe. maybe, you know?
I will say I really enjoyed when they had the whole sit down with her, and Fiorina was made to squirm in a way that we haven't really seen. And she's been in awkward situations because of the bravado she puts out there. But Fiorina knows when she's sitting down with Arlecchino that her bullshit's not going to work. And it's a really fun dynamic because it makes Arlecchino look imposing when it happens.
Yes, that scene was great. That was such a ingenious way to introduce this character.
So now you have Fiorina on the back foot from the word go. And she still manages to hold her own as long as she gets stomped. But Arlecchino's just bemused by the whole thing because she's like, oh, little girl, you're so much fun. I don't believe a word you're saying, but this is great. I'm having a fun time.
Well, there's a lot that's super... I mean, we could honestly just rate that scene, I'll be honest. But, like, the fact that we get her name title drop, the, like, you know, Arlecchino, you know, that happens in a social scene, tells you the kind of combat that we're going to be having with her. Whereas we've had that big name drop with other characters when they're like about to challenge you to a duel or they're going to do whatever. So like her having that moment, and like you said, she makes Fiorina squirm, which is super interesting just because that's the kind of pressure we haven't had against Fiorina this far. But then it lets us, the player, go, okay, well then who is Fiorina under real pressure? And it lets us try to gauge where Fiorina is, so that when Fiorina starts actually standing up and having like something to say, we start realizing, well, hold on, this can't just be an act. She's being serious right now, even though this doesn't sound like it's making any sense. And then it becomes part of revealing the mystery. And then we see the good that Arlecchino does, and we eventually learn, as Arlecchino tells us, part of why that fear was fucking put in Fiorina, in her jumping her and like could have just offed her or whatever. And like then we understand, like, well, then we almost feel a little sympathy for Fiorina, like, oh shit, she thought she was gonna die. And it's like, well, wait, should she have worried that she was gonna die? Like, it adds to the mystery while building who Arlecchino is, while building who like Fiorina is, and the ultimate mystery of what's going on and the situation of everybody. It's a beautiful scene, and it works so well because Arlecchino is not a one-dimensional villain, which is why I'm willing to concede that, like, even though I think it's just like the pure monochrome with the red in some ways that miss me in so many ways, but like, yeah, I still think she's good. She deserves to be high. So,
and so she has gone. She's gone to fourth because Yomi is the impenetrable wall except for Fiorina. Clorand.
Correct. Boobs. That's all she has.
She's just too. She's very busty, and not. I mean, in a very fan servicey way. I like the rest of her design.
Right, the shirt's fighting for its life.
Literally, her shirt's about to pop open. I'm like,
yeah, poor button is struggling.
I like the rest of her design. I mean, you can't go wrong with shorts and tights or nylons. You know what I mean? So, but she's just I don't know. She's kind of there. She's sort of like the Kujo Sarah of this region, where she's like the duelist and I don't know, very serious and.
I feel like she has some good dynamics with Nouvellette. I mean, I don't know. It's kind of the same dynamic that she works alongside Risley and she works alongside Nouvellette. She almost feels kind of mercenary in a way. There's a lot of that like personal guilt regarding what happened with Navia's father, but then like because she has a long history of being friends with Navia and like the falling out with the two of them, and then we kind of like again her D&D story thing is super cool. She runs the D&D games. She does a good job. She does all the voices for all the different NPCs that she drops in and stuff. She's very professional about it. Like she is definitely like a consummate professional. And they're very subtle about the ways that she cares about people, maybe too subtle. Like when one of Farina's few friends that would like drag her out of her house after everything that happened was Clorinde. Clorinde was like, let's go to a social event, and like dragged her out. I think Clorinde is more interesting below the surface, but I will concede the game really doesn't do a whole lot to show that to you. You kind of have to look for it or directly engage with it. And even then, it doesn't really change your opinion of her. She's still a consummate professional who's going to do what she's going to do. You just realize that like, okay, she might actually be kind of cool to hang out with or like grab a beer with or do something, you know? So I don't know. I might say she's a bit more interesting than Jean, which is why I would probably say she's like low A. But if we move Jean down, then she's probably B. So
I don't think she belongs in A.
Yeah, I don't either. In fact, this is happening. So
yeah.
We'll just go ahead and get that out.
Do they even belong that high in B?
Yeah, I don't know. I think Ganyu's got to fucking plummet, and probably, honestly, all three of them. If you put them at the bottom of B, I'd be okay with it. I'm not even.
I think that's where they need to move to.
You want to move characters that we as a group put in A last time to the bottom of B. You want to move them below Ayato?
Here's the thing. I think they've been stagnant ever since we did that last thing, and I think that harms them more.
And we were being generous even back then, and now it's just the gulf has widened.
I think I was pushing for them to be higher just because I like playing as them, but
I think
they don't belong
for me to go along with moving them down that much in B, we need to purge some of the bottom of B. Because the world where we have Kujo Sarah above any of these three is insane to me. Because Kujo Sarah hasn't done jack shit since then, so...
That's fair. I think Kujo Sarah is too high.
So I'm trying to figure out, like, okay, so who else goes into the high C then to make some room in B for this end result here? And, like, Kujo Sarah to me is a candidate for top of C.
Yeah.
Maybe, like, Ayato.
Maybe Ayato, unless Doug is really, really sad about it. Maybe Yoon Jin, who I was never super sold on the first time we did this.
She's got the one really cool event, and then she basically jumped off a cliff and she's dead. So I would agree. She probably should.
Because, like, if we do, say... Sorry, Doug.
I mean, no, it's fair. It's that Ayato in the most recent event was like, oh, yeah, I'm going to be an actor here in this movie, too. Oh, wait, I don't really fit the role. I'm going to dip out. I got other things to do, and then comes back.
Yeah. He like, can't even be bothered to take part in the events he's a part of.
If we end up somewhere like that, I can see it. But...
I'm not mad about that.
It's fine.
Okay.
Because I can't put Jean below Shenhe, even though Shenhe's had some fun moments and has a new good costume and stuff. I'm like, I don't know. It's not Jean's fault. She's been positioned as one of 7 overworked characters in this game. Also Ganyu, but Ganyu now ends up next to Cloud Retainer, so that's nice.
Mm-hmm.
It's true. They can hang out.
Yeah, they can hang.
So if that's the case, then I think Clorinde is like fucking there-ish, like decently high in B.
I think Tainari's cooler than her, though.
I think I agree with that. I think Razor's too high.
Yeah, I think that's what's happening.
I think that was me.
It was.
Last time. I really strongly advocated.
Him, like,
I still love him,
there.
But yeah, he hasn't done
how about that?
anything in forever. Poor wolf boy. Yeah,
Okay.
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
What about Ning Wang being as high as she is?
Yeah, I keep looking at that too.
It's tough
Also,
because
real quick,
like, everything she's
Yonsei
done is
in
great. She just hasn't done
April is
much
crazy.
recently, but I don't know. Again, I can't hold that against the character.
I won't lie. Yanfei should also probably drop down, and I'm sure some of that
Yeah.
with me. Yanfei should probably be out of A, especially when she's up there with like Nahida. She shouldn't be above Nahida. That's an insane take, even by my own.
I'll move her to the bottom of
Yeah,
A for
that's
now.
fair.
I agree with you for what it's
Okay.
worth. I just didn't want to get killed.
Nah. Look, I'm the Yanfei supporter here, and
No.
as much as I like her personality, she's been out personality by people. So, yeah.
And you know what? Let's just, while we're moving things around, there you go.
Yay!
There he
Next to his
goes.
mom.
Yay.
I am more inclined to move him up there than I am to move them out of S.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
Alright,
so now
fair.
we've settled on that. We have 3 characters left, and one of them is the only character on this list I don't care about. Like, I almost need to abstain, as Jason did earlier, because I'm like, it's unusual because even the 2 that have followed since then, I'm like, okay, yeah, like, I see what's going on here. I don't even really know what Sethos is about. I kind of just missed
neither.
out
He's
on
Emma
that.
Robinson.
So, like,
I don't-
I have no idea.
No clue.
Yeah, whatever. He's part of what Sino's second character mission. So if you haven't done Sino's first mission and then you don't do the second, Sethos doesn't exist in this game. Am I correct? Is that an
I think
accurate
so.
portrayal of his existence?
That
Okay.
sounds right.
So yeah, I agree. Sethos, I hate to say it, is he less relevant than Aloy, who at least most of us got for free? That can't be true.
No.
No, he's got to be more relevant. So he's
He's-
above.
he's-
He's
above Aloy.
stop.
But like, I want to say
He's better
barely
than
though.
Dory. Jesus.
He's got to be better than Dory at least. But yeah, I don't know if he can move much further up the D
I think he
range.
should be ahead of the little army of baby children, and then that's it.
I have him here
That's fair.
because he's never done anything to annoy me.
Hmm.
Fair.
And I can't say that of any other character that he's now ahead of on this list.
That's
He has
fair.
a fantastic voice actor.
Yes.
So you got to give him that.
That is
Oh,
true.
who is it? I like literally don't know anything about this character.
Zeno Robinson.
Oh,
Wait.
yeah.
And then we finish on 2 more Fontainians, because he's from Sumeru. Sijuin first.
I like her design. She's cute, but she's a baby child, so it's the same problem as before. Although she is the only baby child, the only other baby child that I would maybe consider putting in like C. She's
Well,
adorable.
She's like a melazine. I don't know if it counts as it. They only get so big. Like they're like midgets.
It counts.
She's a one.
Okay. I don't actually think I'm gonna place her that high. Love the voice actor. It's Jinx's voice actor from League of Legends. So like huge props on my end.
Yeah.
But like she kind of doesn't do a lot. I know that there are elements of like the melazines and how they fit in with like the old lore of the region of Fontaine and sort of the remnants of one of the big, I don't think was it a dragon? It's one of the land masses effectively. So like it's interesting, but it is also completely missable. If you don't do a single fucking side or event quest, it does not matter. It's invisible in this. It's not relevant. And other than like Nouvelette having a crush on all the melazines or them having a crush on him, I don't know that it's the
I
most
also
intriguing.
didn't realize she was a melazine because she doesn't. I mean, she looks like a baby child. She doesn't even like match their aesthetic.
Yeah.
So that's a shame because I actually would consider playing as a melazine, like you know what I mean, like the actual little
Yeah.
creatures because they're adorable. And the fact that she doesn't really, I didn't even know that until you said something, is kind of depressing.
Mhm.
I think there's a reason for it, but I think it's in her story quest, and I haven't done it yet.
Ah.
There's a lot of things that they do that are kind of interesting with the melazines overall, as far as like, and again, I haven't done all of them, but like they all kind of have like an object that they're tied to, and like a kind of like a wish or like a goal, and like they're almost like trying to like learn to be human and like have that life because it's sort of like what they represent. So there's some interesting things going on with just the creations of them and this like legacy of this older, like almost godlike creature that once existed. But I don't know that any of that really shines through on her character. She's just sort of almost creepy. The way that she cares about like people's health and knowing how to like knock them out or like all their pressure points or like trying to make weird concoctions or food for them or whatever.
I mean, she
think...
deals with criminals all the fucking time. So.
True. And she has like this kind of fun dynamic with Risley where like he's always trying to just sort of be like, please stop giving me like drinks or whatever. And she's like, no, you should definitely do this. And he's just sort of like, I don't know about all that. But like he appreciates what she does for him and, you know, gives a shit about her and she gives a shit about him. And obviously she likes Nouvelette. She's in this weird position where she's surrounded by so many other characters that I think are better than her that maybe she is just outshined in like every single way.
Yeah.
So I don't know. And like her kit, she's just sort of, I mean, I know we don't, you know, rate on that, but like, I don't even know that would like save her effectively. She just kind of does some healing and pulls out a giant syringe and shoots like heart rays at people. Yeah, bubbles. Yeah, I don't know. It's so I don't know. C, she's in the C's somewhere.
I have her above Kave.
Ooh, above Kave, huh?
Above Kave.
That's wrong.
No, because then that put her in B. No, that's Crazy Town.
Oh, not Kave. God, what's it? Shit. Not Kave.
Kaya?
Mika?
Kaya, thank you.
Okay,
Kaya.
okay.
The other K name.
Oh, yeah, right. Okay, that makes a lot more sense now.
Yeah, that's
That's
understandable.
Yes.
It's probably much more doable.
Bennett did nothing wrong. But I also don't like him, so that's why he's in C.
Yeah, and we're not really Bennett fans here.
I had C-Sween on the...
Bennett is one of the best Kit characters in the game.
Sure.
But as far as story-wise...
Yeah, this is not a Kit ranking, otherwise some characters would be drastically different. I had C-Sween on the border of B and C, so I'm thinking, like, somewhere in this range?
Sure.
Below Batman.
I will absolutely agree.
Here?
I think the most interesting thing about her is the inhuman nature of her. And I think if they played those up more, you know, so she came off as less of just like a random baby child and more of like, she's not human. She's trying to learn how to be human. And I think that would make a greater connection between her character and like what the Melazines are going through. I think if they use her as a vehicle for what the Melazines were and what they were dealing with, I actually think she'd be a stronger character. And so I'm inclined to agree. As much as I'm sure there's probably a reason, I think it might even be like her wish was to be more like a human and blend in. And so like maybe that's part of it or something. I don't know that that's true. Somebody who's done the quest is going to tell me I'm wrong.
I just can't put her below Klee. That's
fair.
I like her more than Klee, so like that's where I have to draw the line.
I like her more than Klee too.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
So like, that's where I think it has to be. All right, since we are not ranking anybody from the new region, so no Mualani, no Kinich, no Kachina, and for some reason the Fatui Harbingers are here. I don't know why, but we're not ranking them either, except for Arlecchino. That means we have one last character, and that is Emily.
Well, she cannot be higher than Chiori, I would say. That's for sure.
I think I agree. I don't have a strong opinion on this character.
I know nothing about her.
Yeah,
she
kind of
I
random.
don't know. She talks, and I don't know that I am super like. I was just here in the event, and I think I watched some of her trailer or whatever. Not impressed. I don't vibe a whole lot. In fact, I think there were some stronger designs for her in all the leaked concept art, which I know other people have also said. So like. She's a miss, and you know what, nerdy kind of weird characters, like she would in theory on paper maybe be a character I'd vibe with, but no, didn't do it for me. I don't know, there's just something about like she doesn't feel like she has a very, maybe it's the voice acting, doesn't feel particularly strong or that she's got a ton of personality. It's just sort of wispy and airy, and maybe that's because she makes perfume or something, but I don't know. Maybe if I interact with her in game where she shows up and does something, maybe I'll care. Like she's like Chiori and that characters talk about her. She has existed in Fontaine the whole time. But like incredibly superfluous. Like they're forcing like a square into a circle fucking peg here because like what is it? Chevris will be like, yeah, sometimes she helps me solve some of my cases when I have to like do whatever, and you're like, oh, is there like, does she help like dispose of bodies, or does she like understand? No, she just like really knows her like perfume or something. I mean, or whatever. Like, they're really trying to force this perfume maker into being like relevant into a bunch of things. And again, unless I'm missing something, I don't vibe with it. She's like probably somewhere in the D for Emma D. Emma D. I don't know.
Stop.
I'd have to abstain. I haven't interacted with her at all, or I haven't even taken a look at anything that she is about. So
Yeah, I just
I
have
did
no
her
opinion.
trial, and it was like very meh. Playing as her didn't really leave an impression at all in terms of kit or character, even in that moment. So
It
yeah,
kind of
not
felt
really
like Lisa.
Yes. Yeah, Dendro Lisa. Yeah.
Dendro Lisa. Oh no, that's not a good comparison for her.
No, D for Dendro Lisa. There we go.
D for Dendro Lisa.
Some people will be
Yeah.
sad about that, but I'm not one of them. Okay. This is, let me scroll up because we don't need these people at the bottom. It's hard for me to scroll in between these. Can I okay, that gets most of it. This is where we have settled. So real quick, before we spend maybe a couple minutes, because we've already been on forever, just wrapping up Sumeru and Fontaine, is there anything else we need to adjust on this list?
Switch Goro and Kaya.
Sure.
Okay.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Please.
I would also even do this.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
that's
fine.
fine too.
Honestly,
Keep going.
you could keep going.
I think
you could
Sucrose
keep
should be a
going.
little bit higher.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's fine.
Sucrose can be above him, but he can be above the other.
Like,
Yeah,
I would go
above-
like
above
this,
Klee.
maybe.
Yeah,
Yeah.
over Klee.
Because
I
Sucrose
agree.
finally got to do a couple things in a couple different events, and I was like, okay, I'm not a huge fan, but I was like, that's an improvement for her.
You know, that's true. Her interactions with Kale and the two of them binding over
that
being
was
like
good.
that was like not being of like struggling in social situations and like having kind of masters who are very good at their craft, you know, the Tainari Albedo kind of scenario. I actually thought that was really strong. In fact, I might even argue that I think Sucrose maybe even needs to move up. Like I think she's stronger than almost most of these people in C tier. I'll be honest. I don't think Kujo Sara is better than her, but
I think
Uh,
that's fine.
sure.
Yeah, for now.
Good jump for her. Maybe next time she goes up further. Yeah, I'm just scrolling across and seeing. Like, it doesn't make for the most compelling videos, but I'm looking around just to be like, all right, what else is off to me? Like, I don't have Shao as high as some people do here, but that's fine. I don't think anybody else needs to be an S. I don't think I'm moving either of those two out of S into A. We moved the 3 people out of A that we mentioned, and we did all the other changes that we had talked about. So it's kind of just like, hey, is there anything else last minute that looks off?
I think it's looking pretty good.
Is
I
Yenfei
don't
a
wanna-
little high, or
Yes.
does she? I just think of
Oh.
comparing her and like Charlotte, and I think I am more excited to see Charlotte show up in something, and I'm like, yeah, than Yenfei.
I'll tell you what we'll do. We talked about moving Ningguang down. We'll move her down a little bit. Maybe over there. Again, I don't think she deserves to drop too much. I can't possibly put her in C. And then Yanfei comes down to like here.
She's better than Amber, though.
Is she?
Yes.
But I can't put her above Eula, so I can do that. But then our Tainari
Okay.
fans are going to be upset.
Is Yenfei better than Tainari? I don't think that's true. I think you had her in the right spot. I think
How
she
about
goes
that?
behind Clorind. Sure.
All right.
Yeah, I think I'm good with that.
And then I think this needs to happen at least there, maybe 1 or 2
Sad
more.
but true.
Yeah.
She probably should go down closer to Ridesley. I think she's Risley vibes.
'Cause I'm
in
like
that,
here,
like-
if I'm being honest.
Okay.
Fine, we'll put her above
Beto-
Kokomi.
Yeah, that's fine. Look,
So
Beto's just
cool.
Beto is just cool. She's cool personified. So like, yeah.
She doesn't have that much going on, but she's just cool.
Like you understand why Ningguang would be gay for her. You know what I mean? Like we
Well,
all-
Sure.
Yeah.
There's plenty of reasons.
Yes.
I'm looking at the rest of A tier, and I'm pretty happy with it. I don't see much else that I think I would change. S tier, I also think I'm pretty much okay with. I don't really have any issues with it. I mean, again, I'm not the biggest Ito fan, but like since he was not really ever on the verge of being moved to A, and the two underneath him were, I think that's fine.
Every time I think about how weak Ito can be, then I think about every time he shows up and he's just like a ball of energy that is just so entertaining that, you know, I'm like, yeah, I like him. If an event has Ito in it, I know that I'm gonna have some amazingly delivered lines of dialogue that are gonna entertain the shit out of me about whatever the fuck is happening. You know, just a spew of words like the Arataki Ito Big Band Beetle Battle Royale, and I'll be like, "What are you talking about? None of this works." But okay,
You know what?
But
Here's
he
the thing.
convinces you that they work.
he does.
Here's the thing I'm doing. Nope. Nope, right there.
Aw,
It's good.
family.
The family's together.
Right. And I don't think she has as much going on with her personality. Again, it is sort of meant to be dry and clueless to certain aspects of the word, so you can't punish her too much for it, but like I'm gonna move right next to Cloud Retainer, and then they can all be together as one little happy family since they all like share clothing or whatever.
Like it.
I think I'm about done
That
with the
works.
list. Anybody else? Throw it out there. Last changes, anything?
I mean, I still contend Razor's too high. I don't know if I understand why he's on this list. He isn't done. Like, I don't know what he's done. I don't know why he.
The
Is in
little
B.
backstory with his parents was nice.
Okay, I mean, it was. That's fair. Was it nice enough to beat like Layla and Shenhe and all that though? Like,
Oh.
This is your boy, Michaela.
Yeah, fight for
That's
him.
true. I gotta fight for him. I still like him a lot, probably more than I should. I think I'm good with where he is.
All right, I'll leave him.
He's a sweet wolf boy trying his best.
it's true. You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Pretty good balance.
I'm not mad about it.
We have a lot of like relatively even tiers. S is the smallest because again we didn't want to just throw them out there. Everybody gets an S. No, doesn't work that way. D is the second
You know-
smallest, but there aren't a ton of characters I just don't like, and even a couple of the characters in D, it's not like I hate them. If you put those characters up against some of the shit in Wuthering Waves, they would be much higher. But something's got to go in D.
So, and just as a point of interest, Lynette is the highest 4-star on the list.
I love that for her.
Me too.
I was gonna say, I think I like it too.
But I do think it
think
is
she's
interesting
deserving.
that no 4-star was able to make it into S rank. It obviously it makes sense. They're going to put all their story and marketing into the people that they can sell the most. So that totally tracks. But I do think that like Beto is cool enough. Fischl is autistic enough. Collet is sort of like tragic enough. I don't honestly Toma. I don't know why Toma's up that high. Toma.
Yeah.
You know what?
He's
I don't
the
know,
only
I don't
one
like-
I could see maybe moving.
But like, you know, but Lynette also I think that speaks to the strength of her character. Sure.
There you go.
I just think it's interesting which characters we like are not going to get a main character quest for. They're going to maybe not be super. Well, I guess no, they've managed to get a couple of them relevant in the story.
Well, you're right though, because the problem is people always talk about they want more good 4-stars. The Star Rail in particular is going through this, where it's like, man, there's barely any new 4-stars and this and that. It's like, I get it, I totally understand, but nobody wants the character that they're really interested in to be a 4-star.
Correct. Yeah.
Which makes sense, because you don't want them to be sort of pushed to obscurity and not have the backing that Jason already mentioned. But it does put you in an interesting conundrum where it's like some characters got to be 4-stars, but then most of them don't really rise to the top, and we see that here in this tier list. Let's wrap up here because it's been 2 hours and 45 minutes with just some quick parting impressions of Sumeru and Fontaine, because we're about to set sail for Natlan later this week. We might as well put a bow on these two regions. Two of the regions what I would say are my two favorite in the game.
I would
Yeah.
agree.
Mm-hmm.
It's the best storytelling they've had so far. I think that's hands down. I don't think that's in contention. I think I
It
could
might
sit here.
be from me.
Really?
I think Inazuma's still my favorite. It has the risk factor and the hunt for visions that I just thought I still think is really compelling and interesting. Inazuma, or not, sorry, Sumeru had moments like the time loop that was really cool. And I like the, Ace Attorney moments in Fontaine. But I also just have a really, really soft spot for Inazuma. So that one's still my favorite. But these other arcs were also like very good as well.
I mean, I think for me, a lot of it, so atmospherically, I think Inazuma is still one of the strongest regions. The feeling of danger and sort of oppressiveness that you get in the music and like running around, just the lightning storms, all that stuff. It's still one of maybe my favorite region for that reason. But I think when it comes to just the writing of the story, how emotionally engaging and like where we see characters go, I think Sumeru gave us our first real taste of what competent NPCs instead of just us running around and solving everything do. Like it felt in so many ways that if the traveler was only part of a team in Sumeru to help free their Archon, and by the time you got to that final showdown with Scaramouche and you're named like the first Sage of Boer or whatever, you feel it, and it feels really big and really epic and over the top, and it's phenomenal. I think that we didn't feel that in Inazuma, wherein I feel like they maybe wanted it to. We had Kokomi and Ayaka and Yoimiya, and they were like the rebel group and yada yada, but so much of it just came down to Yaimiko and Raiden just sort of like blipping at each other in like a mind prison or whatever. So it felt not as, it didn't feel as epic. I think Sumeru pushed it into this like time loops and like dreams and all these crazy things that I feel was a really good step for the story, to where then Fontaine, we started like bridging into like the abyss in certain areas. We were dealing with like the finality of prophecy and like, is the story already written for us, and how do we skirt the lines of what the gods have deemed for us, which are really heady topics. But then we also get like some really fun moments of like being in the prison was kind of drag, and but I think all the court cases were a lot of fun. I think the intrigue, I think the ultimate twist and the mystery were so much more sold, and I think the emotions, whether it was Navia or Farina, hit so much harder in Fontaine, that where we basically get this giant team epic battle to save the kingdom in Sumeru. In Fontaine, we get this just sort of tragic mystery where we are sort of inadvertently playing our parts and struggling with a mystery that is like outside of our ability to comprehend by design, and yet the pieces are there for us to put it together and play our role. I think they're telling two very different stories, but I think both of them are some of the best writing that just existed in fiction recently. I think they outshine everything else in the game. I will then say I'm unsure how Natlan's going to beat that, but I would have said that about Fontaine after Sumeru, so I will probably be wrong post Natlan, but we'll see. I know they're already teasing crazy shit with the Abyss and a bunch of other nonsense, so I'm sure there's more going on in Natlan than just a bunch of characters having the Olympics or whatever they're doing, but that's sort of, I guess we'll see. But yeah, good stuff the last two patches or whatever.
Other
That is
impressions?
true.
I think it goes Sumeru, Inazuma, Fontaine for me, but I think everything is kind of just hitting. So yeah, I just took this last month off as a break, and now I'm ready to get back into it. So,
and as a reminder,
we'll see.
For people out there, he's got every character level 90, so
might have he says take a break. Yeah.
I think it's Fontaine number 1 for me. I really liked Inazuma, and it's still close. Sumeru, for me, I enjoyed the main story and not so much the exploration of a lot of that area, whereas Fontaine hit both for me. I did not think I was going to like the underwater stuff. I was pleasantly surprised. So between the music and the scenery and, of course, the main story, I think Fontaine just pips Inazuma for me. But like when I compare it to a Liyue or something, which I didn't hate or anything, but I think about how much I breezed through that and how much Inazuma actually grabbed a hold of me and made me really want to commit to the game. And now I look at the next two regions and I'm like, this is great. This is great storytelling. The main quests have to hit. It's kind of like Final Fantasy 14 in the sense where it's like, if I'm going to devote this much time to this, your main storyline better be good. And the last two, I think, have delivered in spades.
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, last thing we'll do then. I'm not going to keep you much longer, I promise. But what we can do is we can save this list so I have it for later. So we'll just, download this for just so I have it. Great. And then what we can do, I think, if I leave presentation mode, is just take a quick look at the Genshin communities list. This is...
Too many
God.
Yeah, well...
That is way too
so
many
many
ads.
This is where,
So
again, this is not to
many
belittle
S's.
other tier lists, but this is a thing I think a lot of other people do when they don't do as much of this, which is like, oh, I love all these characters, put them all in S. It's like, that's not really how this should work. They're all being graded on a relative scale. So, like, yes, I like almost every character in the game, but...
Noelle is an S,
Noelle,
as where she
no.
deserves to be.
Yeah, with
Wow.
Heizo? Are you joking? No. What is this?
So, I mean, I'm trying to look at
That's
this and see, do we
wild.
have any D characters that are in the group S? I don't...
Baiju was in our D.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, just
Kaiju,
barely.
That's true.
Yeah, for Doctor.
Yeah.
For Doctor.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
So as you can see, they were a little bit less discerning, let's say. I won't even say wrong, they were. But just, just to put
Who's in their D?
to put it out there. We have, so how many is this? Let's see, there's 11 per row. So that's 46 characters in S.
Good God.
That's half the
This
cast.
has to be a list. This has to be a list based on meta. There's no way that Zhongli and the Raiden Shogun are like top characters in this game. I can maybe understand Zhongli, but the Raiden Shogun, other than pulling a sword out of her boobs and being a phenomenal meta character that can just ignore all defense and stuff, what character? Most of her personality is not having a character. She wants nothing to change. She wants to be set in eternity forever. Like, that's a cool story. We put her in S for a good reason. I understand why she's here, but like higher than like Yoimiya? I mean, I don't know.
I think
That's
it's tough to
wild
quibble with
me.
the order. I mean, I guess technically that is like a summation of everybody's impressions, like how many people put them in each one, so that's what's higher to lower here. But like with that many different voices in the room, it's probably hard to find a consensus based on a tier list. The other counter argument to that is Dia is an S, and she's clearly not an S in the meta. She's a fucking D. So
True, but Kokomi also I think is too high in S, but people love her kit as they should. She's phenomenal. But like Kokomi, if we were just judging based on like what she's good at, Alhaitham is the better version of Kokomi in many ways. I mean, Kokomi's more elegant and beautiful and yada.
Oh
yada,
my
but-
god.
They have Fiorina.
Dorian-
And what?
No,
Well, this is
Fiorina can't be.
okay.
how long these characters have been out.
I had to scroll
That's-
because I was looking as you were talking. I wasn't listening. I wasn't trying to be inattentive, but I was like, I don't see New Violette or Fiorina, and I was wondering how low they are, and the answer is D.
No, this isn't a
that's-
real list.
Well, here's I
Yeah.
think part of
There's
the
no way
problem,
that-
and I think we saw this the last time, if I remember correctly, because it doesn't do well for newer characters overall. Because less people know them, and over time, less people have voted on them. So in general,
No,
it
because-
skews older to newer, which is why like all of these characters are here, for example.
This can't be real though. Gaming is in B.
I know, I'm not saying it's
over
perfect. I think that's
Farina.
part of it. That's still not right at all, but like that's part of it. You'll notice almost everything down here is relatively new.
Yeah, so this has to just be how many times they've shown up on a list or something.
Mortaglia and D. That's interesting.
Yeah, he's an older character. People
He
do
is
not like
older.
Child.
He's like the
Yeah.
exception to this
Yeah.
rule, but in general, except for him. And again, like I don't know how recently all the Harbingers were added to this because I think that's part of it too. They definitely weren't here the
Yeah,
first
why are
time,
they-
so
This
Even-
just
I
this
don't know
just
why
tells
they're
me
on this
that
list.
like is this just could they have showed up on any list and this is just where they show up, or is this specifically for best character? Like,
No, I think it's any. People can change it to be whatever they want. of what-
okay, so if that's the case, a lot of this can make more sense because that does mean that any meta list would pop in, which will skew some of it. It does mean that the number of lists over years also skew it, to Chris's point. It also means that if they say boot this list up and then go, who's the strongest Fatui Harbinger, Child ends up at the bottom of it almost every single time. So some of these make a lot more sense if we include the fact that they are going to pull this up for like an obscure list or something where the characters you think at the top are actually in the bottom. You know what I mean?
So it's not very instructive.
Like they could be ranking by like best hairstyle or something.
Yeah, they could be ranked by any metric, and this is just a list that happened to have all of them. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really tell us anything because if the character is not less than a year old, they were all in A or S. I guess except Aloy and Child.
Poor Child.
So at that point, like if every character is A or S, then none of them are. But that just may be the result of the timing, all the things that have been mentioned. So I thought this was going to be more revealing, and instead it revealed nothing.
It's still wild to me that
questions.
Navia is still higher than Farina, and I'm just trying to think by what metric.
And she was released after her, so that doesn't make much sense.
Correct. Yeah.
That's confusing.
I don't know. I like Navia to the point where like when her banner comes around, I almost want to pull for her cool axe just so I can have the ultimate drip on her because she's that cool. Honestly, I think I'm gonna be surprised if I like Natlan for the character design. I don't hate it yet. I'm not sold on it. I think the little Polynesian area that they got looks the coolest to me. But I just know that just walking around Fontaine and everyone's got their like little hats and their little like suits and dresses, I think is super stylish and I love it. And I think every character that's got a little suit or a little dress, I think is the coolest little design that they got. So I'm gonna miss being in Fontaine, is what I'm saying.
But Natlan is coming up. We have big time like beach water hijinks vibes, but obviously, as Jason mentioned, there's going to be plenty of things going on under the surface as well. And anytime there's a new region, that's exciting because the best part of Genshin is exploring, in my opinion. So, like, in general, every time we have a nice new chunk of a map and story to explore, even the guy who's a little bit, jaded about the game is still going to be like, cool, let's go. I love a new region. And, Fontaine carried me through its story even at a time when I was struggling with it. So I'm hoping that's going to be more of the same here. We'll see.
Yeah. The story's where it's at these days in Genshin. It's as much as I've been putting the grind into ZZZ, and even Star Rail to some degree. I'm excited to come back for the story in Genshin, and I'm hoping that Natlan has that sauce that the other two regions have had, and if they can improve upon it even further, then I will be surprised. But I hope they can do it because they've had some of the best storytelling that I think we've seen in gaming in a while, and I'm not talking about the character.
Any other parting words from our cast?
Apparently not.
No, I think our list turned out pretty good.
Yeah, I'm happy with where it ended up. I said the same thing at the end last
balanced.
time.
Yeah, balanced and reasonable.
And
so no notes.
You may be looking at this and you may be like, well, my favorite character got a bad grade. It's like, well, at the end of the day, it's personal preference. You should not care what 5 random people on the internet think. And we don't care what you think. So that's kind of mean.
Exactly.
Kind of mean because we did actually we brought in some participation from the outside, and thanks to like Thunderhead and Jordan and others who were here for along the ride, and that one random person that used an abbreviation that was a Chinese slur. Not so much you got banned. But anyways, we appreciate people joining in along the way. If you're catching this after the fact, of course, keep an eye out for live streams like this because put the chat on the screen. We have you participate. And because it was a 3-hour stream, it's my chance to plug briefly at the end. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, please do so. We just went past 1,000 subscribers. You can like this video. You can hit the bell, but nobody fucking cares about the bell. Even I'm not going to shill for that. And I think that's about it. We'll have more poll videos coming up soon. Obviously, a new region means new stuff there. I'm going to have a bunch that I'm deploying in 2.5 for Star Rail, 400 plus. So be prepared for all that coming up. And we'll see you in the new region for Genshin Impact. Talk to you all later. Say goodbye, everybody.
Goodbye, everybody.
Everybody.